Okay. Okay, dear students, teachers, mentors, participants, speakers, and viewers, a warm welcome and good morning. Thank you for joining us today for Young Technopreneur Challenge 2023 online workshop. Young Technopreneur Challenge is entrepreneurial competition based on ideas and inventions with commercialization potentials. YTC is designed for participants to learn and develop real-life entrepreneurial skills by experiencing the journey of an entrepreneur. YTC is conducted in 2 phases. Phase 1 was the registration, followed by briefing and business plan submission. Phase 1 has been completed, and now we are in the phase 2, where top 20 teams for category 1 and top 10 teams for category 2 have been shortlisted. Today, the shortlisted team will be guided with half-day online workshop. The main purpose of this workshop is to give you ideas to further improve your product or your projects and tips on how to prepare for your pitching session, which will be held on the 8th of July. To begin with, let me introduce Mr. Anandan Shanmugam. Mr. Anandan Shanmugam has served as the project director for Young Inventors Challenge for the past 10 years, and now he has been appointed as the project director for Young Technopreneur Challenge 2023. He is also a lecturer and instrumentation system developer with over 20 years of experiences in teaching engineering and electronic subjects, system interface, special purpose medical product and instrument development, reliability and renewable energy management systems. He is also serving as a consultant in green energy material and devices. Without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Anandan Shanmugam to say a few words and moderate this workshop session. Let's welcome Mr. Anandan Shanmugam.
Thank you. Thank you, Vanita. Okay, good morning to all. Obviously, I cannot see all of you, but I was told that about 60, 65 of the students who have already into the Zoom meeting. Okay. I hope many more will join. The expectation is we will have at least all the teams and teacher mentors, probably about 150 of all of you as audience. Okay. First of all, I want to thank Vanita for those kind words. A little bit of prelude to YTC, which in my mind is, or some of you may be familiar, which is an event that we have been running and is still running, called YIC, Young Inventors Challenge, where the focus was to train high school students to be more innovative and to bring forward those innovative solutions to problems faced in their daily life, in their environment, as potential solutions for others as well. So that was the start, and that was about 10 years back. As we go along, we see that a lot of students are quite familiar with the problems that they're facing. They're very vocal about the problems that they're facing, and they do have reasonably innovative solutions to some of the problems that they are facing. But we also saw that these solutions will not really reach others if they just stay as a solution in a classroom setting, like, unless we bring it forward in a more structured way, and the most likelihood of a structured way is to bring it as a business model. That's how we started this competition called Young Entrepreneurs Challenge. Instead of saying it is entrepreneurship, but since we are asking students to bring the technological ideas into entrepreneurship. We call this Young Technopreneurs Challenge. First of all, I want to thank congratulate and thank all the 20 teams in category 1 and 10 teams in category 2 for being shortlisted. That doesn't mean that the other teams should not be congratulated. It's that you have to probably take some hints, work harder, and please do come forward to our competition, which will run annually from now onwards. Okay. Today, we are going to do a sort of a half-day seminar workshop and introduce to you some of the experts in the fields, get a feeling of what their experience is in some aspects of either business venture, business model, or how do they turn an idea into a prospective business. Okay. Let me take pleasure in introducing the first speaker for the day, Dr. Jayalakshmi Ramachandran. Let me formally introduce by giving some, by stating out the credentials. Okay. Before I start, the topic that she will be delivering is understanding business models and business pitching. Dr. Jayalakshmi is an associate professor of auditing and accounting in the University of Nottingham, Malaysia. She's a chartered accountant by profession. She has been an academic since 2000. Probably I'll get to know her better in the coming years since I'm stationed in the same place. She has been academic since 2000. Prior to this, she was attached to the audit industry for 7 years. She's a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and a registered member of the Malaysian Institute of Accountants. Her research interests are wide range, and she has published articles in high-ranked reputed journals. Her research interests include financial reporting and disclosures, audit, corporate governance and ethics, forensic accounting and reporting, and business sustainability. She has won numerous awards for innovative research ideas. She presents regularly at international and local conferences. She has conducted a number of executive training programs on sustainable organizations and ethical practices for government agencies as well as private organizations. Recently, she was involved in a sustainability pulse survey project in partnership with United Nations Global Compact Network Malaysia and Brunei, which was successfully launched in September 2022 by the Prime Minister of Malaysia. She's also a certified HRDF trainer. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Jayalakshmi to present on the topic called Understanding Business Models and Business Pitching. To you, Dr. Jayalakshmi.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Anandam sir, for introducing. It was an elaborate introduction, definitely. And thank you, Vanita, for giving me this opportunity to present basically my experience of having involved in a number of business competitions, entrepreneurship, technopreneurship competitions. So there are a lot of things that I have observed along the way questions are being asked, the way the judges are perceiving the presenters, the participants. So what I am doing is I'm just taking it very light. I don't want to bring in too many technical stuff into it. So I want to keep it very light, and my idea is basically to cover overall the business pitch aspect of it, as well as to cover what are the do's and don'ts. Although, yes, I know that you're having a do's and don'ts list with you, but I'm not going to focus directly on that, but based on my observation, the things that you'll have to remember and what you can do. So I have actually put them in different phases. So before I proceed, let me congratulate the team. And I am actually, I would think, very, very amazed at the number of students who are involved in these kind of challenges. We have 20 teams from the junior group and 10 teams from the senior group. And I think that is massive participation by the next generation students. So I have to be very honest over here that I don't think, I would think like how you all do. So I am very, very happy to see number of students coming up with brilliant ideas. I do voice out what Anandam sir has told, that just because you did not come, or some of the students did not make it to the stage or the pitching stage, doesn't mean that their idea wasn't good. So this is where I think we have to be very mindful when we are doing the pitching. So remember, this is the last round, and this is perhaps going to decide who the winner is. So without much of delay, let me start sharing my slides. I'm sure you're going to hear a lot from other speakers as well. So that's why I think I want to keep it much lighter. Okay, so this is my screen visible to everyone.
Yes.
Okay. So if you have any questions along the way, I think I won't be able to see the chat box, but if you do have, please put it in the chat box, and we would definitely take the question and answer after the presentation is over. All right. So what I'm basically going to cover is just how do you prepare for a business pitch. So this is the platform where you're going to be physically going to be standing in front of judges, and you are going to be pushing your idea. All right. So what am I going to cover today? The brief contents that I would be going through. One is basically understanding the idea of a business pitch. Secondly, the process flow. So when I say the process flow, it starts from the time that you enter the room where the judges are seated, all the way until you finish. That is your thank you and exiting. So there are a lot of little things that you have to remember, which the judges do observe. And I'll tell you why they observe these things, although there are certain criteria already given to you, like 30% is for the products. So you have been given that, the bifurcation of 30% for what and 70% for what. But even beyond that, I think, there are things that judges look at, because normally when there is a tie, or when the marks for 2 or 3 different teams are very close, these are little things that they look at. So we'll go through the process flow, and then we are going to be talking about slide preparation. So how do you prepare your slides? Because we have to be, again, mindful of the time that we are having. I understand that the time allowed is only 7 minutes. So how best can we put our ideas through within that 7 minutes in a very convincing manner? And of course, I have a slide to show you what are the things that you have to remember. And finally, the conclusions. I have just put them into different slides. Okay. So when we talk about a business pitch, okay, the basic idea is, the basic thing that we have to understand is that we are having a unique idea. And in this case, we are talking about technopreneurship. So we are having a business idea, which is technology driven, or it is a plan that we can implement. And the reason why we are doing this pitching is basically we want to attract the potential investors, so that they fund us to run our business, or to at least kickstart our business. So once we establish, remember, we are new in the market. So obviously, we need that initial funding. And as we go through, if our business is established and if we are able to maintain or sustain the business, then definitely there will be more investors who come looking for us rather than we looking for investors. Okay, so the idea is to help you jumpstart or kickstart your business. So the funding that you need to run your business or to carry your idea through. So obviously it means that when you are presenting this kind of information, we are very mindful of a few things. One, this is perhaps an idea or a product that we have not heard about before, all right? Second, it could also be that the product is already there in the market perhaps, but we are talking about improvisation to that product. Okay, so we are making that product a bit more unique compared to what was already there in the market. And hence, we need more funds to invest and develop that product to make it different from the existing range of products. So it is important that we focus on, the uniqueness of the product. And that's where comes the next point, which is the unique selling point. So we have to be very clear about our unique selling point. What is very different in your product that is not there in other products? Okay. Now, when we say unique, or when we are talking about uniqueness of a particular product, many students think that it means we have to come up with something very bombastic, which means something that is never heard about. So let me give you an example over here. So I was present in one of the, of course, I was the audience. I was part of the audience team. I wasn't the judge at that point of time. So there was this team who actually presented, okay, a product. Again, this is technology-driven product. So what they, the basic problem that they defined was that more ladies or female members are becoming bald, in this generation. So obviously, ladies are more concerned about, their looks and their hairstyles and things like that. So the solution that they gave was they came up with a do-it-yourself hair cream that would help the hair to grow back. So they introduced by telling they had a machine, and then they said that the machine would have certain questions. There would be some app or something that is attached to the machine that would be having certain questions. The moment you key in the question, then the machine will make a mix of certain herb, and then it will give the, it will generate the cream for the ladies. So the target market obviously was the female gender, okay? So obviously, while this sounds very great, the question is it really possible for us to do? Because obviously, we can't be having all the herbs in the world into the machine. So there could be some people who come with some certain illness, for example, or, the baldness is not genetic in nature, perhaps, or it is because of certain illness or whatever it is. So if that is the case, and if it requires kind of a very different herb, okay, will this do-it-yourself machine actually generate that herb in order to help grow the hair, or, or to ensure that they reduce the baldness? That was one of the questions. The other question is also that it was wrong to say that only women are mindful of their looks. So these days, research shows that, even male members are equally worried about their hair, about their skin, etc. And they have now come into realizing it is important to maintain their physical personality. So having said that, just targeting the women gender or the female gender would not be an appropriate market idea. So we also have to be very careful when we are talking about our product. So if it is something that is very gender-based, we must have a clear idea as to why it has to be gender-based. What is it, in one particular gender, it is so different that the other gender will perhaps not face. So if we are not able to push that idea through, then obviously it would seem to be like, oh no, this is definitely not viable. So that kind of a unique selling point, or uniqueness of your product and something that is practical. So like in this example that I gave you, all right. So if somebody comes with some illness which has caused, baldness of hair, and if they are going to looking for this kind of a do-it-yourself cream, is your normal do-it-yourself going to help? Okay, if not, then why would somebody, how are you actually targeting the wider market, right? So these are some of the things that they had to look at or address, which they couldn't perhaps answer very clearly. The next thing that normally the judges kind of look at is, what are your strategies? In the sense that definitely today we have to understand that business competition is very tough. So by the time you think that you want to introduce a particular product, there are two other big companies who have already brought the product into the market. So how do you think you're going to beat that competition? And remembering that we are a startup, okay? Obviously, big and established businesses, they are already having the funding, they are having the reputation, they are having the branding. So a lot of things are already there. So in what way do you think, you will be in a position to survive that competition? So filing for your intellectual property rights and those things definitely play a bigger role. Again, in your case, of course, because it is technopreneurship, so technology is a very, very important element that has to be included. So innovation, so technological innovation. So here again, we are looking at a lot of things because technology is very, very dynamic these days. It changes so fast. So obviously, you should be able to foresee, at what point of time that the technology is actually going to give up on you, or, new technology is actually going to take over, posing a challenge to your business sustainability. So that angle has to be, very clearly thought about. So we can't simply talk about like, automation. We can't simply talk about only robotics and things like that. So yes, we do agree today, robotics, automation, etc., are the keywords. But beyond that is also sustainability, understanding the current dynamic world. Financials, yes, we need to know, because ultimately the sustainability part comes from your financials. How do you manage your cash flows, your profitability, etc. Similarly, marketing. Now, I have seen many students, when they talk about marketing, they have very, very big ideas about how they are going to market and the different platforms that they are going to use. But I would think that we have to be very modest in when we are talking about marketing. Why? Because marketing involves cost. So if you are going to give a very bombastic look or a very, very, a very big plan about your marketing ideas, and if you are not budgeting for those marketing ideas adequately and not putting that, matching it into your profitability statement, then obviously it is not going to be accepted. So we have to understand that we are a startup. We might not have that funding to market in so many different platforms. So we have to be very clear, okay, you are going to market. So even simple things like word of mouth, for example, okay, or preparing small brochures, little brochures which are very environment friendly or, cost effective, and then distributing it to them to create awareness. So those kind of small things, when you're thinking of, that makes it look practical, particularly when you are coming up with a new business idea. And remember, finally, we are talking about sustainability, the environment, social, and the governance aspect. today, this is a very, very big thing. So if we can't talk about how we are taking care of our environment, how we are going to, contribute to the society, and how we are going to govern our business, definitely business failures are inevitable. So that part has to be touched upon, or that has to be, you have to be definitely aware of it, because ultimately that is the punch word of the modern era. And the moment we talk about technology, obviously the next thing that comes into the question is, how environmentally friendly are we going to be because of the technology innovations? Okay, so when I say process flow, I'm going to take you through 4 elements over here. One, of course, it is the D-Day, when you are going to be entering, starting to present to the panel of judges. So you are entering the room. So now you have to just imagine you're doing all these. So that's where you will be in a position to see what I'm trying to say. So you're entering the room, then you start, the greetings and saying a hello, good morning, introduction, etc. You start presenting your slides. Once you have presented your slides, there would be question and answer session, which you have to engage in. And then finally, you will say a thank you and you will leave. So this entire process, is a very, very important process. So you have to be mindful of very, very small things which we normally ignore in, the moment we say business pitching. Our focus is normally on what we are going to tell, how we are going to tell, etc. But there are things which are beyond that the judges look at, and then they gauge you and your interest in your innovative ideas. So let me give you some examples of things that I have seen in the past when I have seen students entering the room. So this is a very, very important thing. So one of the things particularly I am not gender biased, but generally I have seen girls do this, hold hands and walk. Now, the moment you hold hands and walk, it gives an idea that, oh, you are perhaps not confident, you're a bit nervous, and, or perhaps you are even unprepared. So that already sets a bit of a premonition about the presenters. So it's better that we don't do these kind of things. We rather avoid, doing such things. Similarly, I have seen students, when they come into the room, they hide behind each other because they feel they don't want to be seen in the public. They feel a bit shy about being seen by other people. Okay, so you are in this competition not because you want to win, but basically you want to make yourself visible, your ideas visible. So we have to forget the fact that we are there to win. Remember, out of so many teams that you're having, only 3 teams can be the winners. You have the person who takes the first prize, we have the first runner-up and the second runner-up. So all the 20 teams or the 30 teams that are participating cannot be the winners. So we don't go with the idea of being the winners, because whether you're a winner or not is not merely dependent upon your idea, but it is also dependent on other factors. So you have to tell yourself or convince yourself, look, I have an idea and I want people to hear about my idea. It doesn't matter whether you win the competition. That is not the thing at this point of time. So it is whether you have an idea and that idea sounds good, and how passionate you are about it. So that confidence that you are having about your product or about your business idea must be seen in your body language, the way you speak, the way you stand, the way you present yourself. So all those are to a certain extent captured by the judges who are sitting over there. So very importantly, they always say, right, what you call first impression is the best impression. So that first impression is very, very important. Okay, so again, one of the things that I have seen is the moment the students come in, say, I understand that you all are 5 in a group. So if you're 5 in a group, you'll come in and then, instead of standing over there erect to wanting to greet the judges and the audience over there. There are students who slouch and, not too sure. So they go, good morning, So those things, I think, creates already a bad taste for the people who are actually, or the judges who are already observing you. So the best way, I mean, this was actually commented by one of the judges in a competition that I was, there with my own students. So I was there to support my own students. So one of the comments that came is, the best way when you are introducing yourself is the moment you enter the hall, just stand, in a row and, have a good posture to be ready to greet. So the impression is that, yes, I want to, talk about my idea, I want to push my idea, etc. Introducing yourself is very, very important. So you have to prepare well as to how you're going to introduce yourself. Is it that each one of you are going to introduce yourself, or there is a team leader who is going to first introduce himself or herself and then slowly, casually pass it on to the other team members. So one of the things that we have observed in the past is, when introducing yourself, before one person finishes his or her introduction, okay, the other person overlaps, okay, so talks in between. So that creates a bit of a bad taste, to say that you're kind of not prepared. There are also other things that we have observed, in the sense that one person has finished introduction, then everyone looks at the other people, look at each other, and you keep asking, me, you. So that doesn't, again, leave a very good taste as to, how you have to introduce yourself. Again, that gives a feel of not being prepared for the presentation, or not knowing each other. So it is always a very good idea to have a team leader who will kickstart. And the moment the person introduces and say, okay, I'm the team leader, now I pass it to my team member, or the team leader introduces the names of the other team members. So that goes in a good way. So the moment the team leader is introducing, it would be better for you to greet. So that is the other thing that you have to remember. Apologies, just give me 1 minute. Sorry, there was someone at the door. All right. So the next thing is, of course, we have to be, the next thing that comes up is the preparations, the slide preparation. How do you prepare your slide? Of course, you would have done this beforehand, but even before you come in. But now we're talking about, presenting those slides to the panel of judges. But before that, you would have obviously prepared your slides. So few things that you have to remember over here is that we have very limited time, which is just about 7 minutes, right? So the points that you're mentioning must be very, very brief. So you can't have like very elaborate points and too many complicated sentences. So that will again not gel well with the expectations of the judges. So I think one of the things about do's and don'ts that is already given is your points, the points that you are presenting must be, it must be in point form. So don't give very long written sentences, because people cannot obviously keep listening to you and read the slides as well. And the other thing is, it also tells the judges, inside out of what you're going to be talking. Okay. Very important point is the relevance of your information. So we have to basically understand what is the problem statement. What is it that we are trying to solve? Okay, what problem are we going to solve? So whatever information that you're providing must be quite relevant and well studied. So let me give you an example of one of the other presentations that I was present at. In fact, I was a judge for this particular competition. And the students were talking about selling a product in North America. Okay, so the question came up is, why North America? And then they gave a little bit of statistics about North America compared to other parts of the world. Now, this information was not true because it was very obvious that, you know, the importance of North America for the product that they were selling. Absolutely, the product was already existing in North America and it was already well popular. So the research that they have done, okay, was not appropriate. And obviously the target market was not right as well. Okay, so even when you're preparing your financials, for example, right, it is important that you prepare like graphical presentations and talk about it. Okay, it is not important always to show positive things about your product. There could be some, no product is perfect, you know, so no innovation is perfect. There is always a downside of that innovation. So if you feel that your market information or your analysis is showing that your product has some downside, okay, it is okay to talk about it and tell how you're going to overcome that downside. So it need not always be, oh, it has to be positive and it has to be, you know, it is extremely good. So it can't be that way, right? So we have to be very careful when we are presenting certain information. It has to be natural, it has to be believable. So you can't come up with something very unbelievable or, you know, something that is too good to be true, right? Then do not clutter your slides, because there has been cases where we have seen that, you know, students put a lot of pictures and a lot of animations and things like that, to thinking that it is going to be appealing to the judges. But I don't think that the judges are carried away by your animations or, you know, by the pictures that you put in. What they are more interested is in the content. Similarly, there has been cases where students use a lot of jargons thinking that that is going to impress the judges, but no. The more simple your language is, the better it is for the judges to understand what your product is all about and the importance of your product and how it is going to solve the current day problem. Okay, so similarly, avoiding too many pictures, not making your slides very wordy, graphical representations, particularly if you're talking about marketing, you're talking about finance, etc. If you are able to put your slides in graphical format and be able to explain the graph, yes, that is going to be appreciated by the judges, right? So covering all the aspects from strategy to sustainability. So here, if you are like, say, for example, 5 members in a team, it would be better that you look into the expertise of each of your team members. So you say, okay, one person talk about strategy, another person can talk about technology, the third person may be able to talk about financials, the fourth person can talk about marketing, and the fifth person can talk about sustainability. So you need to decide, okay, which aspect you're giving higher weightage. And based on that, you know, you need to time the 7 minutes, because presentation is only for 7 minutes. So all in 7 minutes, if you look at it, I'm already telling you 5 things that you have to do. So how are you going to, so it's like only 1 minute basically for, on an average, right? 1 minute or slightly more than 1 minute for one aspect. So here some aspects are of less priority or less important. So you can talk about that in perhaps 30 seconds. And then move on to other aspects which are more important and can slightly drag it to, say, maybe 1.5 minutes. So that kind of a management must be there, and understanding must be there within your team members, right? Have pleasant looking slides. Don't have, you know, why I say pleasant looking slide is basically whatever you have written in the screen must be very visible to the judges. Okay, so you just can't have some kind of a very modern kind of, you know, backgrounds that will hide what you are or what is written in your slide. The background that you have put for your slides must not interfere with the words that are there in the slides. Okay. Now, when you're presenting the slides, okay, look at how you want to divide your slides. So remember, team members, right? So each team member must be given an opportunity to present. And I would think the ideal way is to give equal opportunity to each team member to present, again, depending upon the expertise. So obviously your slides can be divided into those parts which will be presented, right? So that's why I said it is very important that you decide on your expertise, who is an expert in what area, and give them that aspect to talk so that they are very comfortable to talk and the confidence will be really seen. Okay, so remember that everyone will have a chance, must have a chance. So there can't be anybody who says, I'm going to be in the team, but I don't want to present because, you know, I'm not confident. So that definitely cannot be, and that will be seen as a negative thing from the judges. Okay. Now, this is a very important thing. Pass seamlessly to your members. Now, what do you mean by seamlessly? Normally, when one speaker has completed and or one team member has completed their part of the slides, when they're passing it to the next person, you know, it must not look like there is a break. The moment it looks like there is a break, then it comes to a very awkward silence, which is not what you want. So you say, okay, I'm passing it to Mr. So-and-so. The other person comes in telling, thank you for your presentation, or, you know, thank you for introducing, and I'm going to talk about this, and then start into it. So the flow must not be cut. The flow must be very seamless and very good. Okay. It is not bad idea to have chits. Now, many people think, oh, when you have chits, you will be seen, it'll be a negative thing. But no, in fact, in many of these presentations, right, the judges say that you must have chits. Why? Because obviously we are all human beings. We might not be able to remember everything. And at the same time, if you have like memorized everything that you want to say, then you might not show a passion for your presentation or for your product. It will just mean, it would just look like you coming, you know, a kindergarten child coming and narrating Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, how I wonder what you are. So you don't want that kind of an impression as well. So what you need is show that passion, you know, yes, this is my product, it is my baby, and I want to push this idea. All right, so you can't afford to memorize something and quickly narrate it like a storytelling or whatever. So that connectivity between you and the audience must be there, and, you know, the passion for your idea or product must be surely enthusiastically put forward. So having some helping chits or short chits to help you remember some of the points that you want to tell will definitely help you, and it is encouraged by many judges. Now, making a good conclusion is very important. So you have to obviously think of how you're going to conclude. So there has been cases where students, you know, they just go by without concluding what they want to do. And it used to look very awkward, as though you have, you know, abruptly stop something and then suddenly you say a thank you and you move out. So overall conclusion is very, very important, although it has to be very, you know, brief and concise. So remember, from the greeting to the thank you, again, I'm reminding you only have 7 minutes. So you have to practice. Without practicing, you obviously cannot do that. So get somebody to, you know, observe you can have your family member or whatever that is, and get, you know, put that 7 minutes of your time, and each of the presenter or each of the team member, see how well you can make it within the 7 minutes. So if you think that you're exceeding the 7 minutes, then you have to reflect back and then see, okay, what is the most important thing that you can afford to cut from your conversation? So you can't simply blindly cut something because it might be of relevance to the judges. So you have to be very careful when you decide, okay, this aspect I don't have to talk elaborately, so I can afford to cut this information, or, you know, cut short that information. So you have to be very careful. So the very first stages of preparing or practicing your slide is very important, and also knowing what you can possibly cut and what you can retain. So the key thing basically to remember from your side is, as I said, winning is not very important. So the idea over here is to convince the judges about the uniqueness of your product and to say that, look, this is the problem the world is facing, and this is what I am trying to do, and this is how I am going to solve the problem. So that why and how aspects are kind of very, very important when you present. Okay. The strategies and the sustainability must be very practical. So we don't want something that is very, people can't think about or people can't imagine. Okay. It could be creative ideas. I'm not telling no, but the ideas must be something that the judges must be able to visualize. How is that going to take place? How is that, going to form a business idea, and who are going to be interested in these kind of business ideas? So they must, the way you present or your business idea must help the judges to visualize what is going to be in the future. So that would be a very good strategy and sustainability. So as practical as possible. Okay, it might be very small, but don't worry about it being very small or, being a very minor thing. Don't worry about that. So it is more of how practically you can actually carry this through. Remember, because it is a technopreneurship, the technology must be evident, but that doesn't mean that the technology must be very complicated. So as I said, visualization. So the audience that are hearing you, the judges who are present over there must be able to visualize and appreciate, yes, this can be done. Okay, so that is important. Similarly, financial viability. So talking about profitability, the cash flows. Similarly, there could be stages where you think, yes, at this stage, I might even want to take a loan apart from what is being invested by the investors. So understanding about loan and the conditions that come with it is very important. Well, I'm not telling you have to prepare a complicated financial presentation. It's okay. You can keep them simple. It's okay to tell that the initial years you will be facing a loss. It is fine, because we understand that no business can earn profit from the very first year. And if they do, then sustainability is surely a question mark. But what is very important is how you will overcome your loss as time passes by. Okay, how are you going to attract customers? How are you going to capture the market? Okay, so financial viability is definitely important. Okay, but don't worry, nobody is going to go into the nitty-gritties of your calculation. Nobody is going to see whether the cash flows you have calculated has added up to whatever you are showing, etc. But in the financial, what the judges are more concerned about is, have you captured the important aspects of your product? So you want to, push this market in, push this product to the market. You want to develop the product. So have you captured all the relevant cost? Okay, so that is what they are more interested in. And don't think, oh, unreasonably telling, I'm, year one, I'm going to be having 100 customers. Year two, I'm going to be having 500 customers. And if you're not able to justify why year two, you will have 500 customers, and then year three, I'm going to be having 2,000 customers. So the question is how? How are you going to achieve that? So there must be a modesty in, the preparation of our financials. As I told, the moment you talk about innovation, technology, environmental and social aspects are very, very important. But remember, this is not the core idea. So you don't have to spend too much of time. Even a 2-minute, a briefing into, or a 2-minute addressing of the environmental and social issues and how you are going to take care of that during your product development stage or product marketing stage could really carry your presentation a long way. Okay, so what are the things you should not do? One, don't look lost during the presentation. Okay, like you look at the slides. There has been cases where the students look at the slide and then it is at that point of time that they think, oh, is this information correct or not? So they are fumbling. Okay, now when you're fumbling, it's already time. All right. So, and you're losing time as well. So you're not going to be getting that additional time. So it also tells that you have not prepared well. So you have to be very, very certain about what you're going to talk and the relevance of that. Okay. So don't look lost during the period, during your presentation time. Second, you should not be unsure when questions are asked. Okay. So of course, I'm not telling that you will know all the questions that the judges are asking. So what you need to do is, if you don't know the question, it's okay to say that you're not sure. It is perfectly fine, because sometimes they ask you some complicated question which you really don't know. However, it's also a good practice, okay, to ask them for a minute so that you could discuss with your team members and decide who is going to answer. So don't jump into answering the questions such that, you know, a few of you all talk at the same time. Okay, so when questions are asked, you know, there must be a bold answer, or at least gather and decide how you want to answer it. But if you feel that you're not sure, or you're not certain about how to answer the question, or you don't have an answer to the question, at least instead of just shaking your head and telling, okay, just tell them, we are not so sure, but this is what we think. That is, it is fine to tell that. Okay. Again, when you're presenting, connecting with the audience is very important. So, you know, looking down, looking up, you know, looking at your friends is not going to help. So the contact, not only with the judges, but also with all the members present or audience present over there. Of course, I'm not sure whether audience are allowed, but definitely, I think in many other competitions, I have seen that those students who have already finished participating are allowed to sit in the room to observe the other presenters. So having that contact with a broader audience is very important. Okay. Similarly, don't look restless when you're presenting, like walking here, walking there. You know, shouting, standing on one leg. So, possible time that don't beat around the bush in the sense that you're not trying to explain one particular concept, you're not talking about it until the judges. So, the facts must be correct. That's why I said chits will help. So ensure that, you know, you're focusing on that point and you keep moving forward, rather than you know, talking about the same concept and beating around the bush. Okay, so avoid repeating sentences. However, there are certain must-dos that you have to remember. As I told you, having the right contact with the audience and allowing every team member to talk is very important. Being mindful about your time is important. Similarly, when questions are being asked, be strategic with your answers. Okay? Things which you're unsure, you can say that you're unsure, but you think this could be, all right? And it's okay to take 30 seconds or a minute to discuss with your friends, your teammates, and decide who will answer the question. Okay, you have to show that you are polite to your team members. So when you are passing to the next member, the next member takes on by telling thank you, you know. So those kind of things. And or even when you're answering the questions, if two of you all are able to answer a question, checking with each other, would you want to take the answer or shall I take the answer? These kind of things gives a very good, pleasant, pleasantness about you, your team members, and your how passionate you're about your team members. All right. Have a smiling face. That's very important. I mean, you don't have to be serious because you're presenting something very serious. Don't show that you're nervous. Very important. Okay. So in summary, let me tell you, there is no such thing as a good or a bad idea. All of us have ideas. We are only trying to put it forward and tell, okay, this is my idea, right? So we might not be winners, but definitely our ideas it can't be brushed aside by telling, oh, you know, this is such a bad idea, because you'll have already reached that stage. So what's more important at this stage when you've come is convincing the judges that you have the right facts and definitely your product or your business idea or your processes can actually help to solve that problem. Okay, you have to show that you're passionate. So when you are presenting about your product, the enthusiasm must be there. Yes. So don't go with a mindset that I want to win. So winning is not the only thing. We are also looking at, how promising you are and the ideas that you are likely to develop. As I said, winning can be dependent on so many different things. So sometimes when there is a tie or, when marks are very, very close, certain small things are observed and the winner is chosen based on that. So everybody over here that has come, okay, is a winner in one way, right? It is only you're going to the next level of who stands out compared to the others. So you have to work yourself to show that yes, you can stand out compared to the other people. So don't go with an aspect of yes, I have to win. That is not the only thing that we are considering. Okay, with that, thank you. I don't know whether I myself have exceeded the time, but if you still need to talk to me or contact me, please email me. This is my email address. You can always get in touch with me.
Thank you, Dr. Jaya. Once again, I want to give a special thank you, special thank you for taking up the task in a short notice. Questions related to her. It can be more than that. Her expertise is in accounting. Students and also other observers, you all can put forward those questions in the chat. I'm sure she can take some time looking at it, or I'll give you an answer at this point or at a later time. Okay. Once again, Dr. Jaya, thank you so much. Okay. This is a Saturday morning and taking your time off. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So happy to help them. Yeah.
Okay.
And my apologies for just rushing to somebody at the door.
No worries, no worries. Okay. Okay, thank you, Jaya. So let's move to our next speaker, Dato Sri Weeks. I was informed he's already online. Okay. Let me give a small introduction to his background. He has a lot more background, a lot more credential to his name. But let me read a small section to his credential. Okay. So our next speaker will be Dr. Sri C.M. Vigneswaran, who is currently the CEO of Amper Consulting. After helming the Human Resource Development Fund, HRDF, which operates under the Ministry of Human Resources Malaysia, WIX, as is known among us, friends, decided to take a break from his corporate career in 2018 to further his study, and later graduated from Heriot-Watt University, obtaining a master's in business strategy, leadership, and change. And this was in 2019. Okay. This further strengthens his other qualifications, both academically and professionally. Some of those notable academic qualifications are his degree in business administration, in marketing from the National University of Malaysia in 1997, public employment policy from Waseda University, professional certificates on leadership from Judge Business School, Cambridge, Cranfield University, and also from ESMT Berlin. Dato Sri Weeks has a vast experience and has traveled extensively in the country as well as out of the country, and he knows the whole scenario of both employment, business, and work nature. Okay, I'm sure you would we're happy to hear from him. Vix, I suppose, I hope that this introduction does some justice to you. So I hand it to you, Vix.
Oh, fuck.
Hello, hi. Am I on?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Anandan. Thank you so much. I think there's a lot of introduction for me. Okay, when I was asked to speak today, a lot of things ran through my mind. Of course, how do I do it in a 1 hour to talk about how do you start a business and how do you run about it? So that's something that I would like to talk a bit about. First of all, I'd like to apologize. I'm actually traveling. We are on a holiday. So if you hear sounds, my friends are in my room. I'm in the hotel room, so my friends are inside here. So we are trying to do the best. So I asked them to keep quiet, but still, I think unwanted noises will be definitely there. So thank you very much. Okay, what basically I'm going to talk about today is about basics of an entrepreneur. So Anandan introduced me a bit on how would what are the credentials I have. But one of the most important thing I have, I believe that I have is the richness of being with an entrepreneur. So both my parents were entrepreneurs. They started off business, and a lot of my family people are entrepreneurs. I've seen some go very successful, some fail miserably. And I picked up some points here and there, and I hope that it will help you to if you're going to start a business. So can I take a small survey? If you can type in how many of y'all are very interested to start a business, who don't want to work? How many of y'all who really wants to start a business? So just type in your answer so I can get a rough idea on how many of y'all are really interested in doing this. And if you are going to, how should I say, if you have a question, please don't wait until the end. You can immediately put in the questions, and we can start off. While I'm doing the presentation, you can put in the question, and I will try to my best to answer all the questions that you have. So, okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, in this picture, on the most right-hand side is my mother. I think she is one of the best entrepreneurs I've seen in her life. So she's a 5-footer, no inches, unlike me, and she has never gone more than 50 kilos. So this was a stall that we started in the 1970s. My mother. So the story goes that my father, who was a businessman, suddenly went bankrupt. His business didn't do well. The location he started up the business, the restaurant, actually when how should I say, they were building a road up there, and suddenly he actually lost everything and he came back without a penny. So my mother, who was from India, she was a housewife before that. What she did was she said, I think a couple of easily a month plus, we didn't have any income. So what she did, she went and put some vegetables in our garden. We were staying in we shifted to a wooden house, or what we call a squatter house in KL those days. So we shifted there, and we found out that we found that we were thrown into poverty. So she told my father, look here, you can do whatever business you want, you do whatever you need to do. She said she will start a small business just to take care of the for the family. So we were young. I was young. I was around 3-4 years old. I had two of my sisters who were growing up with us, and what she did was she had a neighbor who taught her how to do nasi lemak. If you are in Malaysia and you're familiar with the national dish nasi lemak, I don't think so. It is an official national dish, but I think everyone in Malaysia knows about nasi lemak. And she started off by learning how to do it. And what she will do is she will wake up 3 o'clock in the morning, and she will actually start preparing for the day. And she will make like 100 nasi lemak. She will carry in 2 plastic bags, 50 in each, and she will carry it for 2 kilometers. So all the way to the market, which was 2 kilometers away. I was staying in a Cheras 3.5 miles. Those who know KL, there's a PGRM building, and the market was a Puru market, so easily around 2 kilometers walk. I will follow her as a bodyguard, 4 years old or 5 years old, I'm not too sure. And what she will do is she will every 400 or 500 meters, there's a stall who she will actually unload off the new nasi lemak to the stalls and get them to do what they call she will calculate how many nasi lemak was sold yesterday, and then after that she will minus it off and she will get the money for whatever is sold, and we'll move on and we'll go to the market, and after the market we will come back. So that's how she grew. And after that, we started to have a stall. The picture you are seeing is a stall that I used to work in there also. Then later, when she passed on, we had 3 restaurants in our name. So from scratch, just doing nasi lemak and selling of nasi lemak. And later, we were proud owners of 3 restaurants and many other businesses that we had. So that's something that I always feel that she is a great example of an entrepreneur, especially for a female entrepreneur. And in the 70s, where entrepreneurship is a not such a common concept, and especially among the female, the woman, and she succeeded in whatever she did. So because of her hard work and also determination, all 3 of us went to university, we graduated, and I am where I am because of my mother. So I always pay this tribute to my mother whenever I start my presentation. So that's her. Okay, next slide, please. So I always see this world as something like this, like the snail going on a blade. So it can be done, but that's how the world works around us. You have to be a different kind of, you need to have a different kind of attitude and determination if you want to become an entrepreneur. And that's how I view the world as it is now these days. Okay, next slide. Okay, a couple of years ago, we were hit by COVID virus. So there's a talk by Sadhguru. So he actually reminded us that calamities are something that is not new. Challenges are not something new. Of course, in this from 19th century, from the 20th century, we have seen the First World War, then the Second World War, then after that we had the Corona. We had so many tribulations and stuff like that. So challenges will be thrown to everybody who's doing business at all point of time. So that's nothing new. Every time you will have some challenges thrown to you, and as an entrepreneur or as a businessman, you need to face all those things. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is something like I always stress in all my presentations. This term VUCA was actually created by the US Army when they were invading Afghanistan later. They were in Afghanistan later in the Middle East, and they actually found out whatever conventional methods they were using to conventional methods they were using, strategies they were using, didn't work at all. So they came up with this term VUCA, which V means the volatility actually. There is always things are always changing all the time, and it is always uncertain. So whatever strategies that you use and stuff like that, the world out there is uncertain and it's very complex and it's very ambiguous. So this is a VUCA world, they call it out there. So the VUCA world actually is something that if you're an entrepreneur, you have to accept it as a fact. A lot of people come and talk to me when I do consultation, that the CEOs of organizations and also this wannabe entrepreneurs. When I speak to them, they always say, "No, Vix, I started off something. I was doing this business. It was going okay for a year or two. Then suddenly, what I found is it is not working anymore. So you have to adapt and actually have to change. So the world is a VUCA world. It is always changing, and the famous saying goes that everything is changes. So change is the only constant matter out there. So you cannot expect things to be as simple as that. I give you one example. When the US forces were invading in the deserts, they found they had a very big problem. So what the problem they had was most of the weapons, when they keep it, when they are not using it, because it's a desert, right? So a lot of sand. The sand enters the muzzle of the weapon, either a pistol or a cannon. Or you have a tank, then you have a cannon fixed on the cannon. I mean on the tank, and a lot of sand were going in. So they were trying to find all kind of solutions. First they put a steel cap. Then they found out whenever an enemy attacks, for them to unscrew the steel cap from the cannon, it takes like a few minutes. And within the few minutes, they might be targeted and they might be attacked and stuff like that. So after a while, one guy actually came up with a very simple solution. What he did, they were all the US Army was supplied with condoms, because after the Vietnam War, they had a lot of sex-related diseases. So anywhere they are deployed, it's a standard issue for all the military personnel to carry condoms in their bag. And one of the guys, actually, what he did, he just put up the condom on the cannon in the tank, and when it needs to be fired, you just fire it, because you don't have to unscrew the steel cap and stuff like that. So a simple solution, which is totally unrelated product, which they use to to solve the problem, but it is solved with such a simple solution. So as an entrepreneur, you need to be on your toes all the time, and sometimes the solutions that you propose must be or can be such a simple solution which no one thinks about it. And after that, they started doing covers for all the weapons, including their pistols or their mortars or their rocket launchers or grenade launchers. It was a simple rubber which they put it on top. When they don't use it, and when they want to use it, they can just immediately start firing it without any extra seconds to be wasted unscrewing things and stuff like that. That's one of the examples that the US Army gave. Okay, next one. Okay, Mr. Anandan actually gave a very brief introduction about me. So as I said, I come from a business of entrepreneurs. We are business people for, I think, easily around 10 to 12 generations. I'm the only one who started working outside business. That was me, and I was a CEO of a public, of a public GLC, government-linked company. I had around 800 people work for me, and at a point of time when I became the CEO, I actually doubled up the profits from one end to the other end. So and in my early stages of life, in fact, after Form 5, what I did was I became an insurance agent for a while, for a couple of years. I think maximum 3 years. So when I became an insurance agent, they always send us for training. So those who are doing insurance and stuff like that, there's something that you have to accept. I mean, they will send you training like every 2 weeks once, or every week there'll be a motivation talk, there'll be training and stuff like that. Things are happening all the time. So one time I went a bit bored, young boy, just out of after Form 5, SPM and stuff like that. So I went and asked the trainer, so why are you training us every week? Why do we have to attend training every week? Then he told me something that made me really to think, and I think it makes a lot of sense. He said, motivation is like a battery. So whenever you every couple of weeks, maybe things that I talk about, you have learned it, you have seen it somewhere, and with the advance of Google, you can actually Google it up and you find it somewhere. So two things that happens when you attend trainings and when you attend talks. One is, first of all, you will be reminded, because we are so into our day-to-day life, sometimes we forget the principles of business. And the other part is to recharge ourselves with it. That means when you attend training, you listen to other people, there are some points maybe that you have forgot, but suddenly when a speaker or a trainer talks about it, then you see, hey, this is something that I really need now, and you can utilize that particular point at the particular time. So please attend as many trainings as possible. That's something that I always do. I always listen to talks also. So there is, even though it's a talk that I have been familiar with, but I still go, because maybe there are some of the finer points that I didn't get the first time. And also maybe there are some things that I've learned, I need to relearn again, or maybe I need to unlearn what I've learned and maybe relearn it in a newer way. That's something I need to do. Another thing that the insurance trainer told me was, he told me that whenever it is smarter to learn from other people's experience. So if someone has gone through the path and he have failed, and most probably it's harder for you to do it. So when you think the path is tougher, why don't you find an easier path? So learn from other people's experience. There's another reason why all of us attend training all the time. I mean, if you talk to any CEOs or anyone who's very successful, they always sharpen the axe whenever they have a time. So I really encourage you all to attend a lot of trainings, a lot of talks, and maybe there's some of the finer points you can pick up from there to utilize in your daily life. That's something that I always find it useful. Okay, next slide. So, I always consider myself as an entrepreneur cultivator. So I just try to encourage as many people to become entrepreneurs out there. So I have a lot of clients who are established people who have been with me more than 5 years and stuff like that. That's when I started this Amper Consulting. And some of them have grown into a multi-million-dollar business. Some of them have been very successful. Some of them have failed. As an entrepreneur, you should know the failure rate is around 80%. Every 5 companies startup out there, 4 is determined to fail at the first time. Then maybe they learn on how they can do it better, and they can learn from the mistakes and definitely grow into a bigger company. So don't be disheartened whenever you see failure out there. There's something that always happens all the time if you're going to be an entrepreneur. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, what do you need? So every time when I think of entrepreneurs, I always think of Rajinikanth. Those who watch Tamil movies will know that. So I always think that how nice it is to be an entrepreneur like Rajinikanth. You have the grit, you have the determination. You know, you are willing to do the hard work, and you can become a millionaire within a song. If you watch all the Tamil movies, you can see that within the song, one song, from a pauper stage, he will become a millionaire. But unfortunately, in a real life, it doesn't work that way. But the point, like I would like to pick up, is the determination you need to have. If you're going to start up a business, there's something that you need to have this kind of grit and determination. That's a joke that I always use in my talks. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, these are the key factors to succeed in business. You need to have the right attitude. You need to have passion. You need to have perseverance. There's something that I see a lot of people don't have when they start up their business. They don't persevere. When they face challenges, when they face failure, they always give up too fast. So once or twice when they face failure. So last week I was actually speaking to quite an established business person, and he was telling me how hard is it, because every time he wants to implement a project, there is always some kind of barriers that he faces out there. The plan won't go according to what he has planned. I mean, the VUCA world, right? When we speak about the VUCA world, there's something that happens there, and also resilience. So that's something also which correlates with your perseverance also. These are 2 things that I see missing from entrepreneurs nowadays. So I was talking about my father, right? So I always see him as a very resilient kind of guy. There's a lot of businesses that he has started, and he was unsuccessful in one business. Then he went to another business. And when he found his bearing on what are the right business for him, he was almost 55. So he started when he was 20 plus years old as a businessman, and he found the true north in what he can do when he was 55 years old. That's the age that he decided that this is the thing that he wants to do. So that's something that I think that all of us should have, resilience and also perseverance. Proactiveness is something that very important nowadays. Remember when I spoke about the VUCA world? So if you need to be proactive all the time, you need to be very sensitive to the environment. So that's another topic by itself. How do you act to the 5 forces of Porter? It talks about how do you always keep in touch with the reality of the industry out there. I'll give you one example. In the early 60s, GE actually found, if you are an old timer like me, I think Mr. Anandan can attest to it also, world was like diodes. when you have an amplifier or any electronic products, there's a lot of diodes built into it. Diodes is a component that they use in electronics in the 60s and also later in the 70s. But so this company, GE, suddenly this company factory was doing very well in sales. And the GM was very happy to announce, look here, my diode sales is going up and things are changing. I think this is the right business to invest. So he was trying to go to the board of the GE and tell, look here, you should invest in my company because the diode sales is going up higher and higher. So, but GE being GE, at the point of time, what they did was they did a bit of research and they found out that everyone was moving out from the industry, and when they were moving out, hence that's the reason why the sales of this particular subsidiary was going higher and higher. So when they found out that, then they digged further. Then they found out that everyone was going into integrated microchips, or microchips was being introduced, and an integrated board where they don't need diodes into it. So sometimes, even though you have a very good sales or something is happening, you really need to listen to the ground, like the Indians do, right? They always listen. The red Indians, they always put their head to the ground and listen to the ground, really what's happening in the ground. So you need to know, even though your sales is becoming better, if you're selling a product, you need to know why is it becoming better, why others are failing. That's something that you need to have also. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, there's something that you need to have also. So you need to have the right attitude also. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, I spoke about this earlier. Qualities like passion, tenacity, vision, and self-confidence, that's something that you really need to become an entrepreneur. You need to have a great idea that will pay, people will pay for money. So if you have a product, even though you have the greatest product in the world, if you don't have a reason why people want to part their money from, that's something that you are going to fail. So I've faced this situation many times when I go into coaching, when I see when I talk to CEOs out there, people who have products who always come and see me, they say, Vix, I have this great product. They will immediately start like that because they think the products they have is the most greatest product is out there. So they will come and tell me, they say, Vix, I have this greatest product, it's really needed by the society and stuff like that. So when you sit down, when you talk about it, then for an example, this guy had a best way of solving network problems, Wi-Fi problem in the rural area. So he came and told me, he said, Vix, I have this particular product that actually can solve all the problem of the network. And that's something that I really think that people should get. And I asked him, how many years have you having this product? He told me that he is having this product for almost 3 years, but there's zero sales. So the principal out there, he was telling that, how come there's nothing selling? We have a great product. So it reminds me with my old boss, like Mr. Brian Lim. Whenever I say that, look, I have the solution and I think this is one of the products that we really should be going for it, he always asks me this question, so what? So what if you have a great product? The most important thing is, do I want to buy a product? We will cover a bit of that on the next few slides, talking about how can we cover what can we do with the product and stuff like that. So that's something that a lot of times people always lose focus on. If you are an entrepreneur, you have a great product, there is some possibilities that it might not succeed. Okay, so having a great product is good, but people must be willing to pay money for it. Okay, a plan of success, you need to have a plan and consistent execution of the plan. So okay, so there's a next slide, please. So need for a business finance. So when you have a great product, you have passion, you are determined to sell it, and you have all this right attitude, stuff like that. One of the most important thing is to have money to run your businesses. So it could be a simple thing. So when my mother started the business of Nasi Lemak, that time the need for finance is actually very small. So she just needed around 25 ringgit to buy the, if you've seen the old nasi mat stalls, they used to have a wooden, what they call wooden, they call it nasi kukus, where they have a wooden contraption put on what they call a steel wok, and they'll put some water in it, it steams up, and the whole thing will be steamed up. So that's the older way to do it. And now, of course, you do it in a rice cooker. Similar concept, but a modern contraption. So the whole thing, she just needed 25 ringgit. Last time we were using firewood actually when she started the business, and firewood easily can be gotten. That time Cheras was a jungle. It is not a concrete jungle now, is it now? It was a real jungle, wood and stuff like that. So you have those kind of things. And she, what happens is they actually started out the business with simple 25 ringgit. So for you to start up a business, you need to do that. So there's another reason why we need finance education, business for finance. You need that financial education. When I graduated, I actually started off with my uncle's company. He had easily around 400 to 500 million worth of project in KLIA. Then we had a couple of big projects that we actually did throughout the nation. And he was doing very well. Our profit margin was fantastic. But because he didn't actually keep in touch with the, or keep on the ground, that means how his businesses was performing, he didn't care so much about how the finance was going. Within 3 years, he became a bankrupt. So from having 400 to 500 million in a bank account, within 3 years' time, he actually owed the bank 1 million, and he was declared bankrupt because of that. So having the right finance, what you call acumen, is extremely important. So you need to have money to purchase fixed asset. Like in my mother's case, it's a very simple example. You need to buy that what you call wooden contraption to put rice and to cook rice in it. You need to buy the wok. You need to, that is your fixed asset in a very simple sense. So to meet day-to-day expenses, she needed money to buy the ingredients to cook the product, maybe some kerosene, some anchovy, some kacang tanah, peanuts. You need rice. You need to buy what you call onions, these bowl, sambal bowl and stuff like that. You know, the paste that they do all this chili and stuff like that. They need to do the sambal. So that is something that you need to do. So when you start up business, you need to have a plan on who's going to give you the money, or do you have enough money to do the fixed asset and also to meet the day-to-day expenses. So hence, when I told you the story in the beginning, when my mother walked from one stall to another stall, so what she did was she had a collection plan. She had a plan on how to actually do the day-to-day expenses by doing a simple exercise where she goes and collects the money every day. So if you are an entrepreneur, you have to do all the role. The famous word the famous word they use in Malaysia is one leg kick all. So you need to know finance, you need to know marketing, and finance is where I see a lot of entrepreneurs fail. They don't know how to handle their finances. They think that if they make 100 ringgit today, that is going to be their pure profit. It doesn't work that way, because that 100 ringgit, you have to pay for your fixed asset, you have to pay for your day-to-day expenses, you have to pay for yourself, and the net profit actually might be what do you call, you might not see a net profit for 6 months. That's something that you have to realize when you start business. So whenever I talk to an entrepreneur, when they want to start business, I always tell them, have a 6 months, what do you call, cash flow with you. That means you need to sustain without any profit. You need to assume that you will never make profit for the 6 months, and you need to have enough cash if you want to start and run the business for at least a year or two for you to run. So when you come to a point where you have your fixed asset and you have your what do you call day-to-day expenses you can meet and stuff like that, they will come to a point where you need to expand the business. You need to fund the business growth. That's something that you really have to do. So that will happen. I know if you've seen the couple of months ago, again, going back to the nasi lemak story, since we are in Malaysia, why not we use nasi lemak as this one? So you've seen this kakak nasi lemak, where she actually started a small business. She went into TikTok, it went viral, and people were starting to queue up for her nasi lemak like 3 hours, 4 hours in a day. And it was going crazy, and she had tough time funding the business growth. So that is a good problem to have. It's a very frustrating problem for an entrepreneur. So he sees there's an opportunity of business. He sees there's money there, and the customers are waiting for him. But if he doesn't have a plan of funding to grow the business, that is the most frustrating thing can happen to a businessman. That's something that a lot of times, after a couple of years, or when your business is brisk and you really do it, and it becomes tougher. But there's another side of it. If you see most of the, if you look at most of the, in my younger days, we have these mee goreng stalls, the Hokkien mee stalls for the Chinese community, and they have a fixed time. They said, I start operations at 6 in the evening and I'll finish it by 2 a.m. That's about it. So that's about it. And when they think that that is more than enough for them, so they don't change the business hours. There's only one cook who does it, but he charges a premium for it. So that's a different kind of strategy. So that's something that you have to think also, because every single business will have their own strategy, will have their way they want to do it. If you go back to the food industry, which is something that I've been passionate about and familiar about it. If you go to the very high-class restaurants, like the #1 restaurant, Al Buluni restaurant in Spain, he actually starts up only in certain number of months in a year. He does like 6 or 7 months, but it's super premium. It's so hard to get reservations to the restaurant, and he will finish the restaurant. And after running it for like 5 or 6 years, he decided, look here, I don't want to do this business anymore. I've earned enough money. I'm going to teach people how to do the concept of how I cook. And he stopped his most lucrative multi-million-dollar business, and he started teaching. So again, needs will change. So for that, you have the what they call hierarchy of Maslow, that the need change according to the time. Again, that's another topic for another day. That takes hours and hours if we talk about it. So another thing you need to do is you need to adapt to the modern technology. You need to fill in the gap that related to the times of productivity and recovery of sales, the gap that is always a lot of entrepreneurs miss out, and to hire services of human resources. So, and to meet contingency. So these are some of the things that you need in a business, finance part of it, where you need to consider before you start out a business. So assuming that you have 100 ringgit today, you want to open up a lemonade stall. I don't know how many of you have played. When I started using computers in 1984, that's the first game I played. So you say, today is a sunny day. You're going to sell lemonade. How much are you going to charge for it? Then determine, based on how much you charge for it, the computer decides how much sales you will get. So if in a very sunny day, you can actually increase the price. In a very wet and gloomy day, you need to reduce the price because people won't come and buy your lemonade because they don't feel thirsty. So something like that. So you need to have a sense of finance also. I mean, you might be good in the product that you want to bring. You might be good in the things that you want to do. But again, if you are going to, if you don't have a finance acumen, finance skills in your this one, it's going to be tough. Okay, next slide, please. So this is something that a lot of people do. So when I was doing a degree in the 1990s, everyone said if you have an MBA in marketing, you can definitely become a CEO. So that's the reason why I specialize in marketing in my degree years. Whether it helped me to become a CEO, I don't know whether it's a direct correlation or not, but I did become a CEO for an organization, a GLC, quite relatively big GLC, and later I'm a CEO of my own company. So there is 4 things when people always talk about when you start a business. You need to have the product, price, placement, and promotion. So so you need to decide what kind of product that you're going to carry, how to price it, where to place it, and how to promote it. It's these 4 simple things. So one of the examples that one of my lecturers told in my first year that really made me interested to actually major in marketing was this story how one guy, they found this one particular island where no one wears shoes. It's a famous story in the marketing, where they will send, first they will send an engineer to there. Then, no, first they will send a sales guy there. So the sales guy will go in and come back and say, oh, this is fantastic. We have the whole island who doesn't wear shoes, and this is the best time to actually go and sell shoes there. And then the second guy they will send is a finance guy. The finance guy will go and say, look here, this is a hopeless market. No one wears shoe. So we cannot sell any shoe there. So I don't think so it's a good market for us. Then they will send the marketing guy. So the marketing guy will go in and look at the place and say, look here, this is the place that no one wears shoes. I think there's a great potential because we need to teach them how to wear the shoe. What's the benefit of the shoe? And I think there's a market for it. If we do it properly, then it will work. So it talks about how a marketing person thinks when they go into a business. So you need to have the marketing acumen also in yourself before you set into a business. So as I said, you need to have the product, the price, the placement, and so the promotion for your things that you want to do. The marketing mix is extremely important if you want to start up a business. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so there is 3 ways you can decide for a business. So if you go in, I have a product, assuming I have a nasi lemak, and I go in, I say, how should I run my business? How can I outperform the competition? So nasi lemak is a universal product. Okay, right? That means there's a lot of people who can start up a nasi lemak stall. As I said, my mother started up with a 25 ringgit, and she started out with it. Now maybe you need at least maybe 1,000 ringgit. You can start up a nasi lemak stall. It's a very easy thing to start up, but you have to decide how are you going to price the product. So there's 3 different kind of strategies that you can use. So you can actually still buy a nasi lemak for a ringgit or one ringgit or 50 cents or something like that, but you can still go to a very niche high-end restaurant where people will pay like 100 ringgit for a nasi lemak. So you still have that both spectrums of the market. That means 50 cents nasi lemak where you can go and get it and you can eat it. You can sell it for maybe around 10 ringgit. You put extra condiments into it, and maybe you can go to a very high-end restaurant where you will eventually pay something like 100 ringgit for a nasi lemak. I have gone into a shop in Bangsa where they will have a platter of nasi lemak with condiments, and they will put up all these nice things out there. They'll put fresh produce. They say all these are actually organic products and stuff like that, and they will charge like 100 plus ringgit for the particular nasi lemak in it. So there is 3 different strategies you can use. So number 1 is what you call a cost leader. So you are focusing on cost. So why do you come into this? Another example where I can give you a cost leader where they actually look at costing at all of the times. I don't know how many of you can put it there. Definitely is AirAsia. So AirAsia, if you look at it, he went into the business when Tony Fernandez went in. He actually took a model from a UK company where they spoke about cost. So if you're going to compete on cost, you're going to tell, look here, I want to be the cheapest in the market. I would think I am going to be the cheapest, and I think the cost, the differentiator between me and others is going to be the pricing they're going to pay for me. And you have to make sure from A to Z. That means from a hiring, from your sales, from your marketing, from the concept, everything it should be cost. So in the early 70s and late 80s, when I started flying, at that point of time, everything was premium. So flying was so premium. A ticket from the first place I flew was Singapore. So a ticket from Kuala Lumpur to Singapore in 1980s, if I'm not wrong, was like 500 ringgit. So 500 ringgit was a pay for a non-graduate teacher at that point of time. I think it's around there, 500 to 800 ringgit. Maybe Mr. Anandan can enlighten me on this part. So that's something that good. Mr. Anandan, was that the pay?
Yes, 600 to 800.
600 to 800 ringgit. So the ticket price from here to Singapore and back that time was around 400 to 500 ringgit. And another place that I would fly at that point of time was India. So ticket price for Chennai airport from comeback in the 80s was around 1,800 ringgit. So it was crazy price. And they were actually, that's the only services you get. So everyone was charging premium and stuff like that. But when came to a point, when AirAsia hit the market, they said, look here, I can do it for 200 ringgit. I can do it for 50 ringgit. You just need to pay the airport tax. I'll give you a free ticket. So that really revolutionized things. So if you're going to come up with a strategy on how do you want to run business, if you are going into cost leader. So when Asia started it off, when Tony Fernandez came in, the legend says, I think it's quite true. When the first flight was running out from Subang Airport, he forgot that he need to serve drinks. The story and the legend, the urban legend. So I'm not sure how far it's true, but I think it's mostly true. I heard him to speak about all this thing. He ran to not Tesco. At that time it was Carrefour, I think so. He ran to Carrefour. He went and bought all the drinks in a bulk. Then he came back. Then he actually loaded up in the plane, so he can sell some drinks in the plane, and because they were all about cost. So even in today, what it's called ticketing, you can do it online and stuff like that. A lot of innovations in the airline industry was brought in, people like AirAsia. So in those days, when you go in, people will serve you, carry your bag, put it in this one. Now they say you do self-check-in. So, but the industry moved eventually to self-check-in. So if you decide that you are competing in the cost leadership, so you need to think that way. That means everything needs to be very, very cost effective. So the second kind of what do you call strategy you can set is differentiated product or services. So in the airline industry, if you're going to take airline industry as an example, or maybe I go into a motor vehicle industry. So my friends always make fun of me and I say, look here, Vix, if you buy a Proton, you can go to A to B. So why do you need to buy a more expensive car? So yes, if I buy a Proton, I can go to A to B. That's something that I can do. But I still can take a helicopter down there. So yesterday, when we were crossing Singapore to Malaysia, it actually took 4 hours for us to drive. So it was a terrible jam. It was stuck, and you know, and we were telling 4 hours in the car, we were grumbling, and I was complaining. You know, within 4 hours, I could have come to KL, and it was a horrible jam yesterday. I don't know why it was a horrible jam. So I was telling my friend, I said maybe what we could have done is maybe we can hire a container, because there was one lane for the buses and lorry where it is free. There's no car at all in that particular lane. So the whole car lane and the motor lane was jammed up. And of course, motorcycle they were going through, and the car lane was packed. So as I said, from Singapore, when we reached the Singapore, what do you call, immigration point, to the Malaysian immigration point, 4 hours. But you can see the truck lane was empty. I said, maybe you should start a service where we can load up all the cars into the truck, and the truck can run through the lane within 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you can clear the customs and go away. Maybe there's a service that someone should think about it. So it's a different kind of service. That means you are telling my product is definitely different, and you can charge a premium for it. So just say, assume that you start at services where you have a trailer, you load up your trailer into your car into the trailer, maybe 1 car or 2 cars, then that thing can run up and down for a couple of times and stuff like that. Then they say, okay, services is 500 ringgit. 500 ringgit for that services. That means when you cross the causeway, I charge you 500 ringgit. Maybe you can go through if you can be done such a service. So it's a differentiated product. So I have to decide whether I'm going to pay maybe my time that I spend 4 hours in the causeway. Is it worth it for me to spend 1,000 ringgit or 500 ringgit, just say 1,000 ringgit, just to get through within 15 minutes, so I can spend the other 3 hours or 4 hours into some other productive thing. So it is a differentiated services that you can do. So if you decide to have a different kind of services than the other people, definitely your pricing can be better. So this is how you set up a pricing strategy out there. The other one will be focused on the niche. So niche market, again, going back to the causeway example, I decide, look, I drive in, then I say, oh, yeah, this jam is terrible. I make a U-turn, I go back to Singapore, I park my car there, I'll take a helicopter to JB. Maybe I can get someone else to drive the car out there. So that's a niche market. So that will have an effect on your pricing and how do you market your product. So if you are going to become an entrepreneur, you need to set up the pricing strategy of your product also. And it highly depends on what kind of pricing strategy you want to set. So another place that I always find people fail, it is at this point, at this juncture. Maybe they are into cost leadership, but they put up a premium price out there. So the product cannot sell because someone else can do it cheaper. So if you are going for cost leadership, so cutting costs will be your most important criteria in how you do your business. If you're into a differentiated product services, you have a truck, I load my car into a truck, we ride through the truck lane where there's nobody there, then you cut through the causeway, you go into the immigration, and come out the other side. It saves me 4 hours, my time of 4 hours in there. And I think that 1,000 ringgit is worth my 4 hours. So I pay the 1,000 ringgit, I get it. That is differentiated product or service. Or you can focus on a niche. You can say, yeah, Vicks, the jam in the causeway is very bad. Do you want to buy my services where I can fly you to wherever you want to go, or take a helicopter, cut through all the jam, and maybe I drop you in KL within an hour and I send you a car over, and the charges is 10,000 ringgit for it. So maybe if I can afford to pay and I think that pricing is right, I might go for the niche of the product. So that will definitely affect on the pricing strategy that you do. Okay. I hope all of you understand a bit what I was talking about. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay, this is something that we spoke about earlier. If you are an entrepreneur, you need to know how cash flow works, how to read your income statement, and how to read your balance sheet. Even though if you're running a lemonade store, that's something that you really, really need to do. So going back to my parents, where my mother was running the restaurant, at the end of the day, she was running around 3 restaurants and we were doing very well. So she does it very rudimentary. So what she does is, she have a ledger book where she put up all the expenses that she has made for the day. Then she have another income book where she actually records all the what they call transactions income that came in today, and she will have another portion where she records all the salaries and what are the utensils that she paid for the day. So she have one for the fixed expenses, one for the variable expenses, one for the income of the day, and end of the day she will actually collate it and she will decide, okay, this is my net profit for the day. Then she will calculate for the month. Later she will have another book where she will put in the water, how much she paid for the electricity, how much she paid for the water. Very simple method, but at least she was tracking on how much money she was making on all her businesses that she did. So that's something that every entrepreneur, if you're starting even a lemonade stall, you can be doing any simple kind of thing. You need to have a sense of finance. You need to set up how much income do you come in, how much expenses are you doing, and what is the net profit you're going to earn, and that net profit must minus the cost of your time you're doing it. So another example, right? So I was with this entrepreneur. He was doing he set up a company. Then he was telling Vic, I'm doing okay. He said, my business was going on and stuff like that. I have a nice income coming in, but my products also were good, and the pricing. And at the end of the day, I make 10,000 ringgit. Then I was asking me, is 10,000 ringgit worth all your trouble that you're going through it? Are you selling your product too cheap? Then he looked at me, he said, "Oh, really? Because I work like 30 days a month, 24/7, and I'm spending so much time on the business. I think I should earn more." Then he sat down, then he decided, then we looked at the way how they price the products and stuff like that. We adjusted a couple of things, and he was earning 4 to 5 times bigger after that. So sometimes looking at your finance is where you get a sense of how is the business going, whether you need to reduce costs to improve the profits, or you need to do something else to increase your sales and stuff like that. So in this juncture, there's another story that I always hear from. So there was this toothpaste company who was thinking how to increase their business. So they were thinking, and they would be having a brainstorming meeting. The marketing flows were coming up with a massive strategy. Were telling, you need to do this, you need to touch this market, this is how you handle it and stuff like that. Again, the urban legend goes, this story is so widespreadly told. I'm assuming that it has happened. The janitor who was sweeping the floor was listening to the whole story, and he said, "Why don't you increase the mouth of the toothpaste? So make it bigger. When people press, they press double the amount, and your sales will double immediately." Again, the urban legend goes that particular toothpaste company decided to adapt the strategy. They made the opening of the toothpaste container a bit more bigger, and people start squeezing in, and more toothpaste was coming out. Double the volume of the toothpaste came out, and immediately after a couple of months, the sales double up. So simple things. So I don't know whether it really happened, but that's an urban legend that everyone talks in the marketing marketing seminars and stuff like that. So something simple as that also can be done. Okay, next slide, please. So what are the sources of financing business? So personal investment, I just put it here. So some of y'all, if you don't have a sort of idea where you want to get your business, if you're young, I understand most of y'all are students. Of course, the best person to get the money from is your parents. I think parents now these days are a bit more adaptive to an idea. So if you go to, but when you meet any of these people, venture capital, business angels, external governments, commercial bank loans, financial bootstrapping, buyouts, whatever source of financing that you're going, even for your parents, even when my nephew and nieces come and talk to me, I always tell them, come up with a plan. Anyone who wants a loan or a business finance, I always tell them, please come up with a plan. Please tell me how much are you going to make, how you're going to make it, how you're going to sell it, and later how you're going to pay me back. So these are details that any kind of investors will ask for, even your parents. If you do it, if you go to your father or your mother or your guardian and you tell them, this is my business plan, I think I will sell 100 nasi lemak a day, and I'm going to price them at 5 ringgit because mine is a premium nasi lemak, and I'm going to get 500 ringgit per day. And if you loan me 1,000 ringgit, my net profit per day is going to be 100 ringgit. So by the month end, I will get around 3,000 ringgit. I will pay you back 1,000 ringgit because I need to retain the profit for my business expansion. So when you go to speak to people, you're going to ask for business financing, and you go this way, I think they will be a bit more interested, and they will have a bit more, trust in you that you will return back the money. So most of the times when people come and talk to me, especially my friends or close friends or my nephew and nieces or anyone who wants to start up a small business, when they come and present to me, I always look at whether do they have a plan. So if you go in with a plan, it is okay to fail the plan, but you must never fail to plan. So you have a plan, you go to people, you say, this is how I'm going to do the sales, this is how I'm going to make the money, this is how I'm going to spend the money, and I want to accumulate this money so I can expand this business. You have a basic plan. I think people will be more than interested to actually support your business. So it's something that every entrepreneur should have in mind. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, these are 3 things that I always find entrepreneurs who are lacking. So these are 3 things that we should avoid. Okay. Next slide. This is again from a Tamil movie. This guy is Vijaykanth. So in one of the movie, he will be like the one-man army. So he wants to do everything by himself. So once this is a common thing, a common trait I have seen in a lot of entrepreneurs. They always think that they can do everything by themselves, and end of the day, they will burn out. So once they will burn out, they will hate business. They will say that no one helps me, no one supports me. These are not common things that I hear from all of them, and that's something that all of us should avoid. So running a business is like a marathon. It's not a short stint. It's a 42 kilometers run. I mean, you need to pace yourself. You need to get all the help that you can get from anyone. Of course, younger days, I always joke with Dr. Yunus telling that my father actually had child labor because I was 5 years old when I started the cleaning plates in my stall, then later restaurant and stuff like that. I was not paid for anything. Of course, those days, no such thing as paying your your child labor. I mean, you can be a son or the son. My father said, I feed you is more than enough a day of olden day kind of thinking. So, so the help, you need to get help, and you make sure that you have someone you can rely on to do the business. So you don't do everything by yourself. Maybe in the beginning you can start doing it yourself, but after later you need to delegate, and you need to have someone that you can trust, you can delegate. So don't do everything yourself. Being an entrepreneur is a marathon, it's not a short sprint. So you need to get someone to help you to do it. So don't be a one-man army. Make sure you get help. Okay, next one. The other thing that I always see in entrepreneurs is they have this trust issue, because they say, look here, I know this business in and out. This is how should I do it? So they micromanage everything. So they don't have a team to actually work with. So there's another thing that you should think about it. So when you're going to expand the business, you need to bring in right people to your business. You need to hire the right, people, the right attitude who can sync with you, who you can work with. Because once you start expanding, you find it that you are stretched too thin and you start making mistakes with your decisions, and that's where the business goes wrong in most of the people that I mentor. Okay, next one. And this is leading to that. Leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. So if you're a leader of your organization, you need to create more leaders, not followers. Good for teamwork. Okay, next one. And you need to trust. I think goes back to the first and second one also. Like you need to trust people. That's something that I find it a lot of times when I speak to entrepreneurs who are, you have this burnout problem. They say, I can't trust people. I started this business. What if this guy learns the business and he becomes a competitor? That's a common fear that most of the entrepreneurs I mentor and coach have this issue, this particular issue. Like they said, what if they suddenly start up a competition, and how do I do it and stuff like that. So again, how to handle this is another topic by itself. Is actually a 2 days program talking about how do you create a workforce that you can trust and rely on, while at the same time you need to retain some of the good concepts and things. But basically, you need to trust, or you will have a burnout if you become an entrepreneur. Next slide, please. Okay, and you always believe that you are building the business for the future of your kids or future of your coming generations. So it is not for yourself, you are building it for the future. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is a famous quote by Charles Darwin. It summarizes the whole talk today. It is not the strongest of the species, even though you have the best product, you have the best services and stuff like that. It is not the most intelligent that survives, is the most adaptable to change. And I truly believe that if you want to have a successful business, most of the big businesses you see today started from a small company. I mean, small establishment. Even big brands like Hermes, Coach, and stuff like that, they were actually a single tradesman who were doing a job, and they did it well. And now it has grown to such a conglomerate, and people are buying these things from out there. But all of them started from a very simple and humble beginning, a couple of hundred years ago. So, but they actually adapt to change. And so going to Coach, right? They started making suitcases. And they were first making these round suitcases to travel with your style. Then later they said, okay, let's make a rectangle one where you can fit in easily, you can stack up easily. And that actually shot up their sales. And after that, it went on LV. LV, they had this strategy and they went on after that. So adaptability is the most important thing. If you don't adapt to the environment, then you will find it hard for you to survive in the business. Next one. Okay, adaptability. Okay, next one. This is some of the examples that the people give when I speak to entrepreneurs. Say, look, I've been doing this my father has been doing this, my grandfather has been doing this. Why should I be changed? When my father had a restaurant, I can remember the location of every dish that he puts because he never changed for the last 30 years. So I always make fun. If you blindfold me and I still can take the right dish and serve to people, because the dishes position, everything, the utensil he used to store the dishes in the restaurant is all the same, and he never changed anything. So, but that might be good, or most of the time it's not right. Okay, because after I graduated, I started working there. I started helping. I was helping out in my father's restaurant, and I wanted to put Wi-Fi in the late 90s, and he said no, because Kapala Ikan doesn't work on Wi-Fi. But now, I mean, he has passed on. Now I think he will be turning his grave if I don't install Wi-Fi in his shop. So you can't use that word tradition for an excuse for not changing. Okay, next slide, please. Be the change and be the entrepreneur that you want. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can post it. I will try to answer it as much as possible, or you can send it to Mr. Anandan and the team, and I will try to assist you as much as I can. This is my email and my my WhatsApp number, so you can do it. And I hope my talk has been beneficial, and I hope you have gained something out of it. And I hope all of you are still awake and not sleeping behind your camera. Okay, Mr. Anandan, back to you.
Thank you, Vix. Thank you very much. I'm sure some of those listeners have some business DNA in them and can relate to you. And I don't think this 50 minutes will do any justice to learn everything that you know. But those kind words and very selective things that we should pick up when people are doing business, hearing from you is wonderful to listen. Thank you very much, Vix.
Thank you so much, Sam.
Okay. If there are questions on the chat or if they post to us, we will come to you back.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for
Thanks.
Asti for providing me this chance.
No, we are thanking you. We would like to thank you personally for taking part in YTC.
Okay.
Thanks, Vix. Bye.
Thanks.
Okay. Let's move on to our next item on our agenda. Our next speaker is Mr. Rees Nordin. He is the CEO of Kotak Shakti. If I'm not mistaken, I think I've met Rees a few years back in one of our event, YIC event. Okay. So let me give a formal introduction to Mr. Rees. Mr. Rees Nordin is a co-founder of Kotak Shakti, a data analytics company now. He's also a partner at Kembara Capital, an early stage venture capital. He was a venture capital at Monks Hill Venture, sourcing emerging early stage startups across Southeast Asia. Prior to that, he invested in a late stage tech companies and top venture capitalist funds globally at Khazanah National. Yeah, probably I think when I last met him, he was at Khazanah.
Yeah,
Yeah, possible. Thanks. Mr. Rees Nordin had stints in iPrentis and KPMG Consulting in New York City. He was a co-founder of Kaimbu, an edtech company based in Boston. Rees holds a bachelor's and master's degree in information systems from Carnegie Mellon, as well as an MBA from MIT Sloan School of Management. Well, he's an all-rounder. He has traveled a lot. He knows quite a bit. And I think, Rees, when I last listened to you, it was on unicorn companies, if I'm not mistaken. Huh?
Something like that. Boss, yeah, you're right.
Okay. Outside of work, he enjoys reading, traveling with family, and binge watching shows on streaming on TV. Okay, without further ado, I give the floor to you, Rees.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Nandan. Assalamualaikum, very good morning to everyone. Thank you to Asti for inviting me to share some of my learning and experience to all these aspiring entrepreneurs out there. Give me a second for me to share my screen.
Okay,
all right,
good.
everyone can see my screen?
Yep.
All right, excellent. So I think from the previous speaker, Mr. Vix, so I think he talks about a little about how you should differentiate your product or your services, think about your structure of the companies and how to get financing and all that stuff. So if you think about what you want to sell, either an actual product or services, now it's time to think about how to get those products or services to the customers. All right, it's not enough to just build it or think about building them, but it's also about finding the customers who are willing to use and, more importantly, pay for those products and services. So hopefully today you will learn about what is based on marketing and how to get through the business to business or business to customers through the marketing funnels. Because once you launch something, a product or services, and then you do a marketing effort or sales effort, people don't just buy it right off the bat. So it goes through a process, or what we call in the practice a funnel. So same thing, think about it as ourselves, about ourselves. So we don't immediately buy product just because we look at it, and then just because we heard the advertising and so on and so forth. All right. So and then after that, you can ask me anything either throughout the presentation or at the end of it. All right. All right, so I think I will skip this slide. So because Mr. Naran did a good job describing my background. So in summary, so I was working with corporates, I did about investments, and also started a few companies. And then I run Kotak Sati and Kembara Capital today. All right, so what is marketing, right? So marketing is the process of creating and communicating the value of your product and services to customers, potential customers, clients, and everyone else that you think might benefit from using those products and services. So it's actually about not to talk about so much about the features, what the specs of the products or services. Is more about conveying and communicating the value of what the product and services can help the customers. For example, we talk about Mr. Vic talk about toothpaste right now. It's not about the smell of the toothpaste. It's not about the fluoride in the toothpaste. But you want to communicate what those fluoride can do to your teeth. For example, to make it whiter. For example, to prevent plaque from building, so that you can have stronger and healthier teeth. So those are the things that you want to communicate when you do marketing, not so much about the color of the tubes, the color of the toothpaste itself, and other technical specs about it. So there might be time for when you want to talk about it if people ask, but in general, you want to communicate the values that the product services provide to customers. All right, so this is what I mentioned about earlier. It's marketing, right? So when you launch any marketing for any product or services, it goes through different stages of the funnel. So when you first talk about it, when you first launch a product, you launch advertising, you launch about a webinar or press release and whatnot. You first create awareness, especially if it's a new product. So no one knows about it. So you need to create awareness of the product. Once you have created some kind of awareness, you want to move the customers to become a bit more interested in your product or services, right? And then after that, when they're interested, then they might start to consider, but they're not buying yet. They're just considering, right? So then they will talk about, okay, if I want to buy this particular toothpaste, what other competitors or other products, similar products out there for me to compare and contrast. Once they've done that, for example, and then, okay, now I know what I want, the kind of toothpaste I want, then I will go out and look for specific thing. And then again, they would evaluate in terms of, okay, even if they found that the product that they want to buy, they won't think about, okay, is this the right product? Is it the right price? Is it packaging? Do I need it now? Or can wait until later? And then after all that, then the customers or the clients will decide to purchase your product or services, right? So it takes a bit of time from awareness to purchase whenever you launch a new product or businesses. So don't be discouraged if you, let's say you have a new product or services that you want to launch, and then when the day that you are so excited to launch about it, and then maybe after a few days and the sales, you may not see the sales. Don't worry about it. Don't be discouraged, because it takes some time for people to register, and then have a great interest, consideration, all the way to actually buying this product and services. So it will take time. So in general, this marketing funnel applies if you are selling directly to consumer, which is business B2C, or you are selling to another companies, selling to enterprise or corporations, which is or in other words, business to business. Generally speaking, it follows the same funnel. However, the kind of information, the kind of messages that you communicate might be different. For example, also the channel that you share the messages might be a bit different. For example, if you talk about business to business, the buyers of the product and services may launch a formal request for proposal, or we call it RFP, to compare all the various products and services that are similar to what you are trying to sell, right? So I have a formal process. But when it comes to actual consumer like you and I, we don't issue a formal document to request for quotations and all that stuff. We just maybe at most we do an Excel spreadsheet to do comparison. Most of the time we do in our heads, or we ask our friends, hey, have you heard about these products and whatnot? Or you have any recommendations, right? So that's how we, that's the main differences in how we're actually doing it. But in general, the mode and the workflow is very similar. Excuse me. All right, so these are some of the activities that you can do in order to move your target audience and whatnot through the funnel. So you can, when it comes to creating awareness, you can do advertising, social media, you can do content generations on your social media, again, your website, your blogs, or your or even physical events and physical activities. Same thing you can do with SEO. SEO stands for search engine optimization. Because nowadays people, when they want to buy something, they want to learn about new products, they will go to Google or even now ChatGPT to look for, okay, what is a good car to buy today, or a good cheap car that I can buy, or something like that, right? So they will go directly on Google or to the web to look for answers to the question. Again, those are the, if your product is ranked highly on the search engine, then you have more chance for it has more chance for the customers to discover you and learn about you. And same thing you can do. There's an overlap. So it's meant to be advertising on physical billboards or newspapers and whatnot. So those are the traditional media. I mean, it may or may not work well for your product depending, but it's still a channel that you can consider. Nowadays, people use influencer marketing. All those TikTok celebrities or Instagram handles and profiles and whatnot, you can approach them for them to promote and advertise about your product. You can also run events to educate the customers about what the benefits of your product, what it offers, the pricing, and so on and so forth. You can also collect emails, email marketing, and also conduct again or do on online webinar like what we're doing this morning, right? All right, just want to share with you a case study about Kotak Sati, how we do marketing and sales to reach out to our customers. Before that, does anyone have any questions? All right, not yet. Maybe you want to save your questions to the end, which is fine also. All right, so case study about Kotak Sakti, right? So what does Kotak Sakti do? So in general, we process or analyze data for companies so that we can get insights or patterns to help their business perform better. Either they want to increase revenue or increase profitability or cut costs or improve the efficiency. So think about us as a data processor in order to discover or uncover patterns and insights to help companies perform better. So we are a business to business company. We don't sell to consumer like you and I, individual customers, but we sell to corporations. So again, this is the process of how we process or analyze data. We take so many different kind of data, any kind, we can process any type of data, put it into a simple table format, and then we run, then we visualize and then analyze them for insights. And at the bottom of it, there are all the various tools that we used in order to do our work, right? All right. So who do we work with? So we work with innovators within companies, right? The people who are eager to test out new things, eager to experiment, and in order to see what are the new things and how they can do things differently in order to improve their companies. But however, in order to go and talk, in order to get and sign up and convert actual paying clients, we have to talk to, a lot of companies or teams within companies, right? In order to get one or two clients at the end of the day. So what we have done since, this is the last 12 months, for example, a summary of the various people that we talked to. You can see like probably like more than 50s. This is slide number 1. This is another slide number 2. So we talked to people in Petronas, Asia, Selangor, Bank Islam, DRB Highcom, Sandviro, and all that, and across different sectors and across different functions and roles. Similarly, we also talked to, Boston, Plantation, Aerodyne, another different parts of Petronas. If you notice that we've talked to several parts, several teams within Petronas. You can see the HSC, Petronas Upstream Digital, and lastly, Petronas GTS. So what happened is that in a large companies, there are so many different teams within that large company, right? So different teams may have different objectives, different problems to solve. So you cannot just talk to one team within, let's say, Petronas, and then to ensure that you get a contract or a deal that you can they can sign up with them. So usually you have to talk to various teams in order to land on one client or one contract within the company. So it's a funneling stage as well. So you talk from awareness. We did a lot of content generation, content on LinkedIn, for example, and Twitter for us. And then we had a webinar, and then from that webinar, and then from all these marketing efforts, what we call it marketing funnel. But then we have a first meeting, right? So if we have if the first meeting went well, then there's interest from the client side, then we will sign a non-disclosure agreement or NDA. What does NDA mean? NDA means that both parties will not share confidential information to the public without notifying the other parties. So basically what it means that we want to keep any information that we got from the client, and also what the clients get from us, basically quote unquote secret from outside parties. All right, so what happens is that once we have signed a non-disclosure agreement, then we would do a proof of concept or pilot. So the client will share with us small data sets for us to do POC and to test whether our solution can help their problems. Right. So if the POC works out well, then we will submit a proposal to do a bigger project to scale up the proof of concept to an actual project that the whole team or the whole department can benefit, instead of one just tiny small experiment, in other words. And then once you submitted the proposal, then there will be a negotiation, contract negotiation, and ding dong, and then agree the price, the terms, and everything else. And then once everyone has agreed on that, then the contract will be awarded. All right. Once the contract is awarded, then we will perform and then deliver the project, let's say for the next 3 or 4 months, and whatever we agreed in the contract. And then only after that payment will be made to us. So if you look at this, it's a lot of process. So again, same thing like a funnel, right? So when marketing funnel, when we do all the activities, it's about awareness. And then first meeting, they have in them moving them to interest. And then when we have done the proof of concept, it's about consideration. And then there's a proposal intent. And then in proposal is intent, and also evaluation. They will also call up other companies to propose the same solution. and then only after that there's an actual purchase of our services. So if you look at this, it can take anywhere from 5 all the way to 9 or 10 months. So it's a long journey, long process. Right. So what have we learned from meeting like hundreds of companies in the last 12 months or 18 months, right? So the easiest part is the NDA. Signing a document is the NDA is the easiest document that you will ever sign if you ever do businesses with other companies. Is the easiest bit. But however, the POC can take time and resources, and usually we try to limit the POC, limited to, like I say, 2 or 3 weeks, so that we don't drag it, so that we can quickly demonstrate our value. Again, remember, marketing is about value. Same thing, POC also, we want to show that we can quickly show value to the clients. And then the biggest challenge is from POC and converting it to actual contract and actual work. That's the biggest problem. Right, so there's so many different challenges, either from a budgeting point of view, the price is not right, the people change along the way, or they have internal process that are very cumbersome to go through. So our challenge has always been number 3 lah. Right. Along the way, of course, it's a bit more technical. So we also learn about the complexity of the data ecosystem, because no one discovery distributed data sources are very hard to consolidate, and because most of them are stored in different in various silos. Silos mean that each team has their own data, and then they don't necessarily share it. Imagine as a small company, you probably have 2 different departments. You have the marketing, they have the sales, you have a finance. Each one of them have their own data sets, and they may not be sharing it freely among themselves. So imagine that you multiply 10 times, 20 times, or 100 times for large companies, then they can imagine the complexity, right? Same thing, I mean, every team will also collect different kind of data sets that are applicable to them, that may not be relevant to other. So sometimes, in order to do a comprehensive data analytics study or project, we need to see different kind of data set, even from their various departments. Even though they may not be relevant at first, but it can help in us in doing the analysis later on. So these are the challenges that we discovered along the way in terms of complexity. But having said that, I think we try to persevere we're trying to persevere in what you call that in our company. So we have also tweaked certain things and how we do things differently. For example, just now I mentioned POC. We are boxing it to short 2 to 3 weeks maximum, so that we can demonstrate value. And then other things that we are trying to do differently is that we don't talk to the technical people first. We talk to the business unit team first, because they are the one that understand, they appreciate, they have problems to solve, difficulties in doing that challenge. Because most often than not, discovering the pain points, the problem statement is the most important thing than the actual technology behind it. Nowadays, and you spend time and resources, you can figure out how to solve it from a technical point of view. But getting the buy-in, understanding the problem statement, the pain points that people are facing, those are not easy to get if you don't do it right. All right, I think that's all. I hope that, thank you for listening, for your intent listening this morning. I hope you learned about what marketing is all about, the differences, the difference and the similarity between getting the product to either you are business to customer or business to businesses, getting your intended clients, intended customers or potential partners, moving down the marketing funnel. It takes a while to get from awareness all the way to intent, but you can do it. But there are various steps and various stages that you can do it. And also, hopefully, you learn on our experience and how we actually go to market and sell our products. With that, thank you very much, and I hope that you benefit and you learn something well. So I open the floor to any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Riz. We have a bit of time before the next speaker joins in. To listeners and students, if you have any questions, please ask them directly or post it on the chat. For example, Riz has you can't imagine, okay, a wide range of experience, and he knows the regional culture of entrepreneurship. So maybe this, if I can ask one,
Sure.
to start to sort of kickstart, so that students can come in more confidently. What are some of the biggest reasons some of our entrepreneurs, I feel we have a lot of entrepreneurs, at least in
Yes.
Malaysia or in the region, but many are failing compared to Indonesia.
Okay, I see. Okay, right.
Okay, why our entrepreneurs are not as, I'm not comparing with Indonesia, but I was told that they are bigger survivors.
Yep.
Is that true? Do you have any data?
Okay, so what you are somewhat right there. So I think when we heard about, especially when people talk about unicorns, right? There are a lot of unicorns coming out of Indonesia instead of Malaysia. Right now we have one called Custom, the buy and selling cars, right? Or you have a lot more in Singapore, even a small country, but a lot more compared to us, like Vietnam. So I think in terms of you're right. So I think in terms of intelligence, creativity, the knowledge, we all, I think it's about at par, because otherwise you wouldn't have Dr. Yunus going to Cambridge and get his PhD, right? It's all the same, we are equally intelligent, equally smart, and everything else, right? So because, for example, let's say you want to do let's say a ride hailing car, or let's say you want to do on-demand delivery of food, for example, right? We can create something like that, and they are entrepreneurs in Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia are also doing something similar. But why they are getting more attraction, more interest from investors and customers and whatnot? I think partly because, especially when it comes to investing, they can communicate their storyline much better than us. Right? It's nothing about technical, it's about storytelling. Because you want to be able, like, for example, like Mr. Vic just now mentioned, right? So I think you want, whenever people come to him to ask for investments or financial or capital, he always asks about plans and how, and you should outline what you were trying to sell, how you want to market it, how much profit you want to do to make, and how much you plan to sell back. I mean, to pay him back. So how you articulate, how you convey the messages or the narrative of your business plan also make it's important.
You mean we don't pitch as well to VCs as they do?
Yes, also, I mean, when we market our product or not, we're not that, I mean, not as attractive as the other people do, especially when it got to VC, right? So, like I said, the same idea, same business model, the VCs, I mean, the VCs will look for something to compare and contrast with. Okay, I have this idea from Vietnam. The same idea I can also find somewhere in Singapore or Malaysia or Philippines. So they cannot invest in everything, right? In every single company is every single country. So you have to choose one, at most two. So if they are equally the same, then again, VCs are investors, or even people are, customers, we're all human, right? We like to hear good stories.
Am I right? I mean, if you have the information that in the last 4 or 5 years,
yep,
Indonesia has some of the largest potential for growth in SMEs after Singapore.
Unfortunately, I don't have the empirical data, or statistics, but I think, just judging from the size of the country, it makes sense, right? But I think even from vibrancy, I think they are also, what I see is a bit they are a bit hungry. there's a bit of hunger in among the population to improve themselves. It also it so jive with the state of the country, right? So the President Jokowi has tried to make certain changes to the country, into education, infrastructure, and whatnot. So they now feel a bit more confident about themselves. The country is improving, they're attracting a lot of investments, a lot of companies coming to the country. So that also give a bit of boost lah.
Our SMEs growing a bit more complacent.
Perhaps okay. It could be okay. This is the thing about Malaysia, right? So we heard about a lot of people talk about middle income trap when it comes to Malaysia, because I think partly because Malaysia is not that small and it's neither that big. So it's bigger than Singapore, smaller than Indonesia, right? Let's say 30 million. So a 30 million-ish population, it's quite sizable lah in terms of business. You can make it if you are successful. You can probably launch a successful business selling just within Malaysia, right? So because of that, you probably maybe a bit complacent. Say you are successful, you say you get revenue of 10 million, maybe a profit of 5 million every year, and then out of 5 million, you take some money for your dividend for yourself, salary or something like that, right? You take the profit from the company. So, let's say you were 1 or 2 million a year, it's maybe after like so many years, let's say 5 years, it's like, sizable money, comfortable money for you to have a nice house, nice car, and then send your kids to private school, and then it's enough lah.
So they
right?
stop.
And then you stop lah. It's not you stop. You don't stop. You don't think about growing outside Malaysia, because it's enough to, because your goal is I want to make sure that I have enough for my family, for myself, my family, and then live a comfortable life, and buy all this, buy that, and travel, and then you stop there lah. Unlike, for example, Singapore, Singapore is so small, right? They have no choice but to go outside.
I'm also hearing our SMEs. I could be wrong. Many of them are not venturing the B2B gap or B2B digitalization sort of business.
Yes, that too. That's also quite right lah, especially in some industries. Sometimes, for example, right, we do a lot of digital analytics, and we also try to encourage companies and teams to actually automate many of your work, so that it be easier lah. You can collect data digitally, you can analyze them, you can also take action after that. So sometimes in certain industry, or even like you think about retail, many like industries. So they say like sometimes we propose a solution, let's say it will cost them about, let's say 5,000 a month, right? 5,000 a month, let's say 60,000 a year or 50,000 a year lah, if you get discount. So they say like, rather than pay you guys like 5,000 a month, I can hire 3 interns for the same price, doing manual work.
Okay.
Right. So then, so that's a challenge. You're completely right. So because of that, yeah.
Is our VC space healthy or not?
Not that healthy sebenarnya.
Okay, because we don't have creators, or we don't have young people coming into business.
No, young coming, okay, at the earliest stage of business creation, like where we are today, right, or your audience, they're all thinking about starting business. There are a lot of ideas, a lot of teams trying to do it. So the challenge is not to say that there's enough pipeline lah for investors to choose. Of course, at the end of the day, investors have to choose which companies or which team are investable based on their own criteria lah. Okay, so now where the investors come from, right? So the challenge is that we have too dependent on government agencies, right? So even VCs in Malaysia are primarily government-related VCs, right? So we don't have a lot of private VCs, partly because if you want to start your own fund, okay, companies or startups get funds from VCs. Where do VCs get money from? They also need to raise their own money in order to invest in startups. So VCs raise their own money from either rich people, rich people, individual or family businesses, so who are wealthy, also from endowments, or for pension funds, or from insurance or takaful companies, also from the GLICs like PNB, Khazanah, Sovereign Wealth Fund, right? So pension funds. So the challenge is that many of these people, especially the GLICs the pension fund, the PNB and so forth, they're very conservative. They're not willing to support first-time VC fund managers.
Okay.
But VCs are expected to support first-time entrepreneurs, but it's not being reciprocated up in the value chain.
Okay.
So then there will be less. Not many people want to go, because if I go up, then a bit difficult. I don't get support. For example, right? So, and then we want with the challenge with the government pula. Government, the structure is not attractive enough to attract the best talent, right? To work with those VC government linked VCs.
So there's an ecosystem problem.
Ecosystem problem, right? So I think if you, like I said, a lot of our policy initiatives try to fix the startups, most of them. I'm not saying that it's not wrong, continue doing that, but you also need to look at other parts of the value chain to help figure out the interventions at different levels. Don't forget other players, not just the startup, also we need to take care, but don't forget other parts. That's what Singapore did probably 10 years ago. So instead of say they did the other way around. So instead of focusing a lot on the startup itself, they focus on creating a vibrant venture capital ecosystem. So they were seeding a lot of first-time VCs. So they say rather than because if I seed VC, a lot of VC, each VC on average will invest in 10 startups. So if I help 10 VCs, that already 100 startups. And then for example, let's say one agency, I cannot invest in 100 startups by myself. So concept, right? So they're quite smart from that point of view. So now already there's a lot more VC funds in Singapore investing in not just Singapore but in the region. So they become a hub for all financing stuff
Because I feel young children with digital minds can really tap the VCs.
Yeah, definitely. I don't disagree with that.
Thank you, Riz. Thank you very much. If there are questions for our distinguished speakers, please write to us or put it on the chat. We will try to get that answer, if not today, some at that time from them, and get back to you. And once again, Riz, thank you so much for your time.
All right, no problem. You want to connect with me, if you are a bit shy to ask today, you can always ask me on LinkedIn.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
All right. Have enjoyed the rest of your Saturday.
Bye-bye. Okay, dear students, listeners, our next speaker is Mr. Shiro Shikamatsu, Shiro-san, who is the director and principal consultant at Ecological Economic Solutions India Berhad. Shiro-san has been helping us with the other event, YIC, earlier. So let me read out his credentials. His main area of expertise is sustainable natural resource management and climate change. His topics include responsible sourcing, payment for ecosystem service for rainforest conservation. This is like carbon credit. And climate change mitigation, adaptation policy strategies in the land use sector. He has over 10 years of experience in environmental research, that's his core, and consultancy, including development of carbon offset projects, analysis of environmental markets and regulation, advice on corporate governmental climate change and biodiversity management strategies, and facilitation of sustainability capacity building. He has conducted numerous fieldwork, workshops, assessments involving sustainability appraisal, ecosystem valuation, supply chain analysis, biomass survey, remote sensing, and carbon counting. He was previously working in a biotechnology lab of Riken as a genetic researcher and in a Japanese environmental business development company, Smart Energy, and as a senior consultant before joining Ecological Economic Solutions. He holds a Master's of Science in Environmental Technology from Imperial College, London, and his specialties are natural resource management, climate change, mitigation, and adaptation. Let me call upon dear friend Shiro. Shiro, welcome to today's workshop.
Oh, hello, Anadan.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Again. Yep.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you
great.
so much, I think, for coming in last minute.
Yeah, it was a bit of a last minute, so my apologies if my presentation is not too comprehensive, but I just want to let you guys share my kind of story of how I started and some of the things like I learned, especially at the early stage of the company, because my understanding is the participant today is interested in the entrepreneurship. I understand techno entrepreneurship, so it may or may not be relevant for myself. I'm an environmental consultant, and I work on the sustainability. Parts of the things are quite technical. For example, recently I worked with Malaysian Nature Society on the remote sensing. So using the remote sensing, but using a smartphone, using a smartphone to find out what's going on in the forest. So I support those kind of projects as well. So I hope you can take some, hopefully you can get some ideas from me. Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Shiro-san. I give the floor to you.
Yep. Okay. Hello, everyone. So once again, my name is Shiro Chikamatsu. I'm Japanese, but working in Malaysia. And I'll just give you this. I will show you the slide. Let me share the slide. Okay, can everyone see the slide? Yeah. If not, let me know. Okay, so just reiterate. So my company, Ecological Economic Solutions, is a consultancy company, and I work on the environmental consultancy, and within the big area of environmental consultancy, I work on more towards natural resource management. My passion is actually conservation, and within the context of Malaysia, I think my passion is rainforest conservation. So that's where I'm coming from. I was as shown before, I was actually trained in biochemistry, and I used to love biology, and that's where I was from. And actually, I studied biotechnology, and my first company that I worked in, called Riken, is a Japanese research company, but within the research institute. But within the research institute, I was actually in a startup company within the research institute, using DNA. So actually, my first job was actually a startup company, and also on a biotech. Yeah, and to be honest, I never intended to do like a startup company of my own. I just wanted to work on environment or biology, or in that area in general. But Since I think the first time I come to Malaysia was around 2005, and then I met Dr. Yunus, actually very early on, and then I also like start to think about what I want to do, and I think it just happened to be the kind of thing I wanted to do was not really available because I'm a bit lazy. So, if I have a chance, I think I wanted to work in a company or like a government agency, but I really didn't, the kind of things I wanted to do was not really like that prevalent at that time. So, so just going back, initially started off doing the research doing a research, but the research I was doing was for the startup company, and but it's a big, it's a biotech startup company, so it's very different in nature. I think like annual budget, like they get like $3 million US just to do research. So this is not like commercialization, but just to do research, you get like $3 million US, and about around 10 researchers were there present at that time, and it was more towards medical biotechnology, So having experienced that, then I actually I was once again I was very passionate about environment. So I at that time I don't know if you know, like it's called carbon credit, became quite popular. It started around that time. So I worked in a Japanese consulting company called Smart Energy, which were developing carbon credit projects around the world. So I was part of the international team trying to find out carbon credit projects. And basically, carbon credit project is like renewable energy projects, and also rainforest conservation projects. That's one of the reasons why I was very interested, because carbon credit was also tied to rainforest conservation. So I think I worked there about 5 years, and throughout that time I actually visited Malaysia, Indonesia, and other Southeast Asia countries, but also Malaysia a lot of times. And then after working in that company, I decided to start up the company, just to be, yeah, just to let you know. So Dr. Yunus is actually, when I started the company, he was one of the director, and he still is one of the director of our company. And we initially started the company in July 2012, and at that time, environmental consultancy was still quite early, and there were established environmental consultancy companies, including Malaysia, but more towards environmental impact assessment or environmental engineering, and not necessarily on management, like corporate management, or looking at climate change policy, at the government or the local government level, or looking at sourcing policy. Sourcing means where do you purchase your raw materials from. So these kind of things were still quite early, and especially in Malaysia and Japan, there wasn't such demand. And to be honest, for myself, I wasn't too aware as well. I just wanted to work on the some aspects of rainforest conservation. So initially, when I started my work, I worked quite a lot on carbon credit and forest, especially on carbon credit related to forest conservation. And I went a lot to East Kalimantan and worked with orangutan conservation NGOs, and also I started to work with Japanese companies. And a lot of the initial work I did was Japanese government related work. So there's a lot of Japanese government related, for example, they want to look at climate change policy in in Asia Pacific. So I assisted the Japanese. So they had a Japanese consulting company, but I've worked with a Japanese consulting company, and I work with them to look at some of the policies. It's called climate change adaptation, meaning that if climate change happens, are there anything in place that government have planned, in order to manage the climate change situation? So I looked at countries like Nepal, Bhutan, Philippines, Thailand, Bangladesh, and unfortunately for this one, I didn't have a chance to look at Malaysia, but I work with other climate change related project for Malaysia as well. And so that's how I kind of like started my work. So like it was not especially in like a field of consulting, you don't necessarily have to be very the product and the service may not be like very how do you say, sometimes a little bit fuzzy, and when you start, you may not necessarily know how it's going to work. So throughout time, I think my area of interest got refined as well. And as I presented to you on the slide, now I work focus on like corporate strategy and business practice in relation to sustainable natural resource management, and also development of underlying public policy, and meaning and civic participation. So what it's a bit vague, I think, from what from the description. But for example, Japanese companies buy palm oil, and in order to buy palm oil, they have to come up with a procurement policy, and the procurement policy, what my company recommend is needs to be responsible. So they have to first of all, they have to buy from a company which is very responsible, meaning that they take care of the people and they take care of the environment. And the way my perspective is, you can't just say to the suppliers, meaning that the producers, oh, we have this like environmental issue. You just deal with it. We just buy. What I tell to the Japanese buyers and also the European buyers is that you have to be responsible throughout the value chain. So don't just like leave or put all the burden to the producers, because some of the producers are small farmers. They only have 1 or 2 hectares of palm oil, and they are told to be very responsible by the company who makes a billion dollars. So it's very that would be not fair. So when we deal with this kind of natural resource management, like everyone from the people who buy to people who trade to people who produce have to work together, and also the government, of course. Everyone have to work together in order to improve the situation, because I think at the core, or there is a consensus that everyone wants to have a very sustainable development, and trying to refine that meaning. What does it mean by sustainable development is something very difficult, but needs to be dealt with, especially now. So that's a kind of the area I work on right now. But
Shiro-san,
yeah,
can I ask a question?
Sure.
You said palm oil.
Yes.
I'm going to be a bit specific, and I could be wrong, but I'm asking anyhow.
Yes.
Let's say there's an European company.
Yes.
Who wants to buy a specific, let's say, fatty acid of palm oil from a company here.
Yes.
Let's say called Oleo Henkel. It's a big company, I think. Okay. And let's say Oleo Henkel buys the oil from Sime Darby.
Yes.
So if you want to say responsible procurement,
yes,
Is it all your uncle has to be responsible, or Sime Darby, or?
So that the way I see it is that everyone has to be responsible. Because sometimes Sime Darby, they have their own plantation, but some of the Malaysian companies, they buy from smaller companies, and smaller companies buy from smaller companies.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the challenge, because like, how do you say, it's there's a idea called extended responsibility. So last time, you know, everyone just, you know, as long as I buy, you know, it doesn't matter how it's being produced. But nowadays, I don't think, especially like not just environment, but also, you know, when you look at health issues, you know, people want to know where the things are coming from, right? So that level of transparency, you know, is going to is kind of being required at the moment. And especially now, the EU is coming up with a new regulation. It's called the EUDR, EU Deforestation Regulation. So the European companies who didn't really do their background research and buys, for example, some of the palm oil, like for example in Indonesia, they are produced in a nature reserve, you know, and then if they buy that, you know, without knowing, they can still get punished. So that's a new law that will be coming into effect. So the way I look at it is, you know, given that business environment, what can companies do? And what is the best course of action for everyone, you know, so that everyone can get some win-win. So, you know, that's where
does this,
yeah.
does this make the whole situation very difficult, or it offers new opportunities?
Both. It's an opportunity for Malaysia, either way I see it, because Malaysia is already coming up with a MSPO, Malaysia Sustainable Palm Oil, which all the palm oil plantation needs to subscribe to. So if the Malaysia can, you know, have produced very sustainable palm oil, then they have a competitive advantage over other countries. Yeah, but it's also a challenge because the requirement is quite a lot. Yeah, and it's like for example, for small farmers, you know, it might not be something that is easily done by themselves. Yeah. So there's also a challenge as well. I think it's same for any kind of business. Maybe I'll give you another very different example, like Japan. You know, last time they didn't produce good cars, you know, believe it or not. And then US actually put a very very strict emission regulation, so that the car cannot emit pollutants, and that was very strict. And that was a challenge for the Japanese companies. But the Japanese companies managed to overcome that, you know, through technological innovation. And then they start selling, you know, exporting cars a lot. So yeah, these kind of things can be a barrier in the short term, but maybe an opportunity in the long term. Yeah, it's just the way, I think it's just the way, depends on the way you see things, you know. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry. So so that's kind of the work I'm doing now. But I think for the participants, they might not be, you know, everyone have a different idea. So I just want to give you some my lesson learned. Yeah. So my lesson learned, when I think the lesson number one is don't depend on people. You have to work with people. So what I mean by that is that when I initially started company, you know, I often thought that, you know, like, because I'm new, you know, I don't know anything, so I have to, you know, work with someone who knows or who's very, you know, who knows what's going on. So that kind of like caused like a certain level of dependency. So, you know, maybe in the case of companies, maybe you start up, you have a big client, and you might depend on just one client, you know. And I think I think this kind of a mistake a lot of the startups make when they initially start the project, or maybe they depend on like one technology or they depend on some like for example, maybe you import a technology from Europe and then you resell in Malaysia, but you just depend on that, you know. So that is like especially at the initial phase, that might happen. And I think what's important is to like not just depend, but like, you know, it's you have to have this mindset of give and take. So you know, when you work with people, you know, you are provided with something, but you have to give them back something as well. And if you have that kind of relationship, then what it implies is that you don't necessarily have to depend on the certain people, because, you know, first of all, you know, you can give something, so you can always work with other people as well. If what one partner doesn't work, you can work with other partner. If one client doesn't work, you can work with other client. And I think this is very important, and something that I learned at the early stage of the company. And in related to that, I think I'm sorry for the speakers today, but including myself, in general, people will give you bad advice. And what I mean is that it's not that people give you wrong advice, but it may not be like relevant or may not be quite right for your circumstance. So like, for example, like when I wanted to work on the environment, my initial advice I got from one of the like consultancy company was like, oh, I should work 10 years in company. Then I start doing like environmental consultancy. And I think the person who gave me advice was, you know, there's nothing wrong. He really thought about it, and he, you know, he gave me that sincere advice, you know. But for my circumstance, I didn't like. I wanted to explore, and you know, by the time like 10 or 20 years later, it, you know, when I'm older, maybe I have like my own family, then it might not be that easy to, you know, go and try out and make mistakes. So for my personal circumstance, I felt that was a very bad advice. Going to the company and working in a company is actually a good advice, but you know, starting from that, you know, maybe okay for some people, may not work for other people. So that's the kind of like advice I got. And you know, I get a lot of advice from people, but you know, like a lot of people, they don't have their own business, so they you know, they have ideas, but some, you know, a lot of time they didn't test their own ideas. You know, they didn't verify their ideas. So people say, oh, sure, you should do this, or people should, you know, sure, you should do that. But you know, you can tell, you know, why don't you do it yourself, you know? And yeah, yeah, including, so like what I want to say is that, you know, you have your own very special circumstance, and it might be different from the person who's giving advice, but at the same time, you cannot just, you know, be closed-minded. You have to be very, very open-minded, and listen to people. So I think I would say, like, don't listen to advice, just listen to what people say and look at what people do, because you can learn a lot of things. And you know, so it sounds a bit paradoxical, but you know, in the end, I think, you know, you listen, you look, and you do take in advice, but in the end, you have to be the one who decide. So if someone give you one advice, and then the outcome was like totally wrong or different, as an entrepreneur, you cannot blame on that person, because it's you that made the decision, you know. So like it's related to the dependence. So, you know, you can't be dependent on other people. You just have to make up your own mind, and you know, do accordingly. So if so if you don't quite understand what the person is saying, and you know, you try to emulate that may also not work because you are the one who's going to implement it. So you really have to understand what you're doing. So that's my advice. So yeah, and another thing is like in the end, no one knows. So the advice may be true, advice may be false, or your idea might be wrong, or your idea might be good. But in the end, who knows? So the best thing to do is to try, but you have to try wisely because your time is limited. So you can't just say like, oh, see what happens, that's what I hear a lot in Malaysia. Because like, see, if you see what happens, then nothing's going to happen. You really have to experiment. But when you experiment, it's a very conscious effort on what you are going to experiment. So as a consultant, I would say like, you have to create a hypothesis, and you have to challenge your hypothesis if it's true or not. So that will be my advice. You just, in the end, you have to try, but the way you try is also very important because you don't have all day long. And then my third advice is understand the market. So I think this is very fundamental, and I think a lot of people say it, and it might be very obvious to you, but you have to know your customer. When you start your own business, I think maybe chicken or egg, but whether your product or your customer is important, I would say just you have to start with your customer, because the way I see it, it's because I'm a bit lazy, so that's easier. So instead of like, how do you say, instead of trying to come up with a product and you try to push the product to the customer, you just ask the customer what they want, and if the customer said, oh, I want this, then you just go and buy for them. I think that's much easier, and easier way to start, and easier way to start with less capital, less cost, less time. So the way to do it is not like you're not a big when you start up a company like myself. I'm not a big company. I don't have to go and analyze if the Japanese economy or the Malaysian economy is going up or down, because I can only serve a very specific niche sector. So the best way is just go and talk to people and find out. So if you want to work with in my case like a consumer product company, I just go and talk to them, what their circumstances, and then I get to understand what they need, and what they say they need. But at the same time, I think about what they should get as well. That's because I will say to them, oh yeah, I understand what you need, what you want, but this is what I think you should do this. And then in that way you can align your the demand with your product. So I think especially when your startup is very small, you don't have to go and do a market survey and all these things. Just go straight and to where you want to serve. But always you have to know your customer. You have to that's what I mean by understanding the market, because when you say understand the market, it's a bit vague. So if I put it much in a very easier term, just please understand your customer, who your customer segment is. What kind, are you serving the people in the business, or are you serving the consumer, the normal people? Because that will be very different, and depending on that circumstance, then the kind of things you need to prepare is going to be very, very different. So I think if you don't know where to start, I think you should start from there. That's my opinion. And the kind of another thing, especially when you think about entrepreneurship, it's a new, like you are trying to create new product or new service, or the way I see it is to try to serve the new market. or emerging market. So in my case, I'm doing sustainability like management service. And 10 years ago, there was no demand for such a service, but it was kind of emerging. So, no one will be able to tell this is like, this is the customer, and this is how many customer, and this is how big the market, unless it's a very traditional market, then you can have a very clear definition. But if it's a new idea or new service, then it's also the market is new, the customer is new, So it's going to be very fuzzy. So you have to work in that kind of very fuzzy situation. So once again, I think you have to try. But when you try, you have to try good. And then understand yourself. So, if you want to have if you do a startup and if you want to be very sustainable, then you have to align yourself of what you want to do and what the market or what the customer want as well. Because you can serve the customer, but the things that you are providing or the service you're providing is something you are not interested at all. Then it's going to be very unsustainable, especially when you're a startup, because you have to do everything, quite a lot of things by yourself, and then it's going to be too exhausting. So it's important to try to align what you want to do with what customer want to do. I want to have. It's not easy, but I think it's something that you have to think about. So it's not like customer, you do whatever customer say. I think that's not going to be, that doesn't work. But at the same time, you can't just say that this is what I want to do. I don't care. I just want to do this. Then maybe no one wants your service. So you have to adjust, try, and adapt to the situation to try to align what you want to do and what the customer wants or the demand for the market. And sometimes my advice is, sometimes the startup may not be necessarily the only option. You can work in a corporation, and maybe you heard entrepreneurship. So some of the large companies, they have entrepreneurship, means that within the company, they ask for new ideas, and then you can try a new business within that, within the protection of that company. So that might be a much safer option. Or maybe, if there's a, if you want to work on a certain service and there's already a company that's providing that, you can work for that company. That's not a problem. It's going into startup is not a condition. It's only one of the many options you have. So I think you shouldn't really like corner yourself and say, no, I must do this. If you're, I think you should be more open and be able to look at a different option. And if one of the option is, I want to start up, I want to try it out, that's okay. And at the same time, I think it's also come up with like exit strategies, meaning like, or multiple exit strategies. So I would say like, try to plan for when it fails, because when it succeeds and like everyone's happy. But when it fails, then you don't want to get yourself into trouble. So like the way I looked at it when I started my own business is that I'll try. I was just at that time I was single, just by myself. If I fail, it's a good experience. So at least I get a good experience, and this is what I want to do. I can get so that was my. It's not a good plan, but that was my plan. At least I get something out of it. So you should always plan for the failure, or I wouldn't say failure, like you should have different exit strategies. So that's understanding yourself, and then appreciation of people. This is like comes very natural once you start your own company and you get in trouble or you need help. Then sometimes people help you, sometimes not, but you get to appreciate people, and you get to appreciate people in different ways. Some people it's more like emotional support. Some people, they give you a very technical support, and you get to appreciate people in general. I think when you do this kind of work, because in the end, when it's a bit paradoxical, but when you start your own company and start working yourself, then you have to work more actually than a normal company context, and you have to work more with other external people. Then so don't imagine that when you start up your own company, it's just yourself. It's actually you have to work more with other people, and it's good. You get to appreciate that as well. You get to appreciate people in many ways. It's not just like this is good people, this is bad people. Some people you appreciate in certain ways. And you get to, so that you have a better kind of appreciation of people in general. So that's at least that's what I kind of learned. So I think that's about it. I don't know how my time is going. Okay.
Please, Shinu-san, we are fluid about time, so we can stop however you feel. Okay, no problem.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's about it. So if there's any questions, anyone can ask.
Any questions from the floor? Okay, maybe to start, Shiro-san, I have a personal question.
Sure.
Do you find, in your own experience in Malaysia, doing consultancy work, is the environment healthy and honest, or it's very difficult?
I think it's just like in any situation, you get like not honest people, regardless of anywhere in the world, and especially with in the field of environment, because when you look at environment and environmental technology, it's very new. So you get some very questionable technologies sometimes, and that's happens in Malaysia, but that's also happened in Japan. So I don't think it's something you can characterize about certain country, but the people in general I work with, I don't know, I find it very enjoyable working with. Yeah.
The reason I ask is a lot of young people now, in my feeling, they are clever, they are honest, they want to do something good, and they want to work for themselves.
Yeah.
So I just want to know whether the ecosystem allows them to survive or it kills them.
I don't know, like people say they want to do it by themselves, but in the end, a lot of people don't do it. That's all. So it's not like most of my friends, they don't start up any companies, so yeah, it's hard, it's very hard to say. And also Japan is not necessarily very friendly for like startup in terms of culture, because we have this culture where like working for like big company is good, working for SMEs is questionable, but it's not true. When you look at the situation, one of the best technologies and all the valuable technology actually within the SMEs in Japan. It's not the big companies. They pick they pick the best ones. That's why Japanese manufacturing is strong, because of the base. So there are certain like I think in Japan and Malaysia there are certain challenges there's no like the culture is not there yet. But having said that, the young people I talk to in Japan, there are a lot of there are people who want to start up, and they've already started up new companies. Yeah, so it's changing, I think, especially the younger generation. My generation, not so much, but the younger generation, yeah, quite different.
I'm also seeing among the young people in Malaysia now, quite many of them want to start with a company first, but they already have in mind that they will have a startup.
Mm.
or a business later.
Yeah, yeah,
They-
yeah.
they go with that intention.
Yeah, yeah. My advice is like start with a business first and think about the company later. Yeah, for sure. Because starting the company itself is not so difficult. In I think if you're Malaysian and if you want to start up the Sdn Bhd, it's not necessarily that difficult. But the getting the business is a more difficult part. So in order to for you to avoid wasting money, it's important to get the business first. Like the way to do it is maybe you just work with other companies, so you don't necessarily have to have your own company. You work in a for example, like a consulting company. Because the way I learned a lot is when I was working in my previous company. Because my previous company, they don't do much, so I have to do everything myself. So that was the way I got trained, because because I had to do quite a lot of things from marketing to the project itself. So you can if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, then you have to be resourceful. You don't have to have all the kit ready and then you go in. You start with whatever you have. So if you don't have much, then you can just start with another company. Say like you go into a consulting company and say to them, look, I want to work with a company. I have this project already. They'll hire you. Don't go and say, please hire me. I have a university degree. These days, no one cares. But if you say, yeah, I learned this in the university, and I have this project in my mind, and I have certain companies in my mind that I want to try, but to be honest, I'm newbie. I don't know. So I would like to work with you guys. Then it's a partnership already. So then I think the companies will be much more willing to work. So then once you get the hang of it, once you have your own business stream coming in, then you can start thinking about setting up a company and starting your own business. And once again, it doesn't really have to be, you don't necessarily have to have your own company. You don't necessarily have to, be like, you can be entrepreneurial without having a company. I think the best entrepreneurs probably they don't have any company, So that's my advice. Yeah.
My feeling is with COVID, the period of COVID, a lot of young people have got a bit more confidence that they can use online as a mean of business.
Mm.
So I think they because they are more familiar with online, they are more confident with online.
Yeah.
So I think that's also good for them.
Yeah, I think, and also another thing, when you start up new business, then especially with like a startup context, then you are serving a very new sector. So that's why I say like some of the old advice may not work, because I will be like a very old school and say, no, look guys, you have to go and talk to people, make friends. You can't do all things online. But that might be very bad advice, because when you start doing online, you might be working with people in Europe, US, India, and then I'll be behind. So yeah, I think I think it's it's very hard to say what's right and what's wrong. To be honest, I think you can have certain ways of doing it, but that doesn't mean it's a right way or a wrong way. It's just a different way. That's the way I see it. Yeah.
Thank you, Surya. Okay. Students, listeners, let me give a recap. This morning, we had Dr. Jaya sort of give us some tips and techniques about pitching. And then we went on to Dr. Sri Vicks, who gave a lot of his own experience with entrepreneurship. And then we continued with Mr. Rees, where his experience is more corporate and venture capitalists. and sort of a B2B business. And then after Mr. Rees, we just had Mr. Shiro-san, where his approach or his background is more environmental and consultancy. So I hope if you have any questions for any of them, please put it in the chat box, or you can even ask us. And if you want to do it later, you can email the admin. We will try to get some answers for you. Okay, and this is a very beginning workshop, okay, sort of a workshop to introduce the real life experience of people in business or trying to do business or want to be entrepreneurs, so to aspire you into that direction. So please, if you have further questions before your pitching day, get in touch with us and let us know how best we can help you. With that, I would like to thank all our speakers today and students and listeners as well. And we will try to, wait, let me just check. I have a couple of questions here, I think. Yes, let me go to the chat box. There's two questions. What is the order of the competition teams to come and present? No worries, that detail will be sent to you by the Secretariat, meaning when you come, at what time you come. Second question is, does the 7-minute pitch include question and answer session? No, it's only for the pitching, I think. Question and answer has a separate time. For Q&A, number 3, for Q&A session, are we given 30 seconds to 1 minute to discuss and think for every? I mean, it's a guideline, not exactly formatted as such. I think the intention was when a question asked, you are given a bit of time. So let's say you cannot answer within 32 seconds to a minute, then they'll move on to the next question. That's what it sort of means. So once again, if there are questions later, please get in touch with us. And I would like to thank all of you for taking your time off on this Saturday morning and joining us for this workshop. And I hope that the teams have benefited at different levels. And I hope that you will bring this experience and make your pitching a better one, so that we can see a better competition, as well as bring the best out of you, new aspiring entrepreneurs. Thank you so much. We will see you soon. Thank you.